Nogitsune versus LIL Noms. Both teams that have done pretty well so far in this season, but are excited to do this little matchup to see where they start standing in these seedings as we start getting to that mid-season, trying to see where they line up. But we could see some interesting things, but the meta right now doesn't really favor either of these players, which could be interesting going into this picks and bans phase. Now, I'm not sure if you've been keeping up with it, Sniper, but anything that you're looking for from this match?
To be honest, I'm looking for I have been talking with a couple of people on the Noms side this past couple of weeks, and they are looking to build upon what they've sort of got. They've got their foundation. They want to build and they want to start getting into that win column to make sure that, you know, they have a good seeding for playoffs. They know that playoffs is going to be difficult no matter who they face off against, but especially going into playoffs, they know that there's going to be a couple of teams that are going to be gunning for them. So they want to make sure that they're a high enough seed. On the other side of things with Nogitsune here, again, new org owner, new kind of ways of things of doing it, but they do have some solid players on this other team, especially Yannicus and Sweaty Sacks have been regulars in QSL for a few seasons now. Interesting so far. What are your thoughts about as we're looking at the Chernobog, the Kamazats, and the Raijin taken away, and then on the other side, it looks like more of the two supports. You got rid of Athena and Ganesh, and then Pele.
So all pretty meta bans to begin with. All of them are, you know, the strongest in their kind of respective roles. Athena's been very dominant in support lately. Ganesh is just annoying to fight into and is always considered a good pick for support. Pele, objectively one of the best junglers right now. On the other side, we do have the Raijin and Chernobog, which is the most dominant mid and the most dominant ADC, outside of a few other options, which I actually didn't see get picked up first. We do see the Kamazot's ban as well, which is kind of interesting because Kamazot's is more of a respect ban going into certain characters like Olaroon. Or Olaron even. So it's kind of interesting in the top 3 ban, but also giving it to the enemy team straight away if you pick into that Olaron would be kind of detrimental to your own team. But we do see the first pick coming out, and that is the Ratataska. Very strong jungle right now, can also be played in solo, but it's interesting to see that go before a character like Olaron or Freya, which are still available for the ADC role.
Yeah, especially with Olaron and Freya, just the magical ADCs, the magical damage is just so strong right now. Especially the Freya. I've seen Freya picked not just in ranked, but also competitive. You know, if it's not picked, it's banned. So, but seeing the Rat come out, I can understand the flexibility of the Rat. Rat could go into solo, Rat could go into jungle, but at the same time, you know, are you going to be building tank Rat or are you going to be building crit Rat? It gives that sort of a ability to, if you're going to go CC and try and CC chain, again, you've taken away probably the 2 most annoying Guardians at this point. So can you string together enough CC that maybe you get a Wombo combo later on? But we do see that Freya picked up for the little Noms.
And respectively the Karen as well. We talk about the Guardian has been taken away, but Karen the Boatman is still around. Doesn't provide as much CC as some of the other Guardians, but is fairly high damage because got lots of good survivability with the shield, and can also just really change the tide of how a teamfight goes with his tidal wave. But locking in that Freya is going to be the more oppressive option for this Lil Noms team, and I think that's really what's important going into that laning phase, because it means that whoever is ADC, Sweaty Sacks for the Nogitsune, is going to have a tough time dealing with it. You know, you've got a few options like Jingwei or Hachiman, which you can play a lot safer into this Freya, because otherwise this Freya is going to be very dominant in the laning phase, and then get fed a little bit, get a lot of farm, go into those late game teamfights and just start deleting people from afar, which is going to be very dangerous for this Nogitsune team. But in return, they do look in a Maui, recently buffed in the current patch.
Yeah, I'm really liking where Maui is sitting right now in the current meta. Did get that little bit of a buff, a little bit of extra power on that hook, and it is such a strong CC. I'm really liking that. Now, pairing the Maui with a strong ADC is going to be very important because Karen and Freya have very, very good damage early on, but if they can get out pressured, it'll put the Freya on the back foot. But if it's over pressured, you're gonna see, especially into the mid to late game, that Freya, if Freya gets the first blood, or if something happens where Freya catches that little bit of an advantage, that can just go absolutely nuts. So we're gonna have to keep an eye on that as we see Noms pick up their next god here.
And just to speak on it as well, we do see the Nogitsune pick up Thor as well. Thor is a very strong character in the current meta, can be played in either solo or jungle. So this actually raises a bit of a question for Kitsune, whether they want to put the Ratatasker in jungle or Thor in jungle, depending on what they want. Both global ultimates, which are going to be very powerful into going into those team fights, good for rotations, and leads back in with what you were saying about having too much pressure in the duo lane. Because if your jungle is going to be there as well, you can really shut down what a Freya has to offer. But going into the solo lane, you're likely facing off against a Kui, and that's going to be a bit of a question mark for both the Rats and the Thor. How are they going to be able to shut down how tanky this mage solo is? And with mage solos being in the place that they are, could cause a lot of issues for this Kitsune draft, even as strong as it is.
Yeah, especially when you're looking at a Kui that can build prophetic right away, that can actually, it doesn't take long for him to stack protections up. And so you might be able to get a little bit of pressure, you might be able to get a little bit of farm, but once the rotations start happening, Zhang can just start getting that damage out, but really getting that slow and the protection shred out to allow his other teammates to do damage. And speaking of teammates doing damage, we see the Marticarus getting picked up for the little Noms.
Marticarus is a great pairing for this Freya. Means you're not doubling down on the ADC damage. You have one split in the magical and physical, and gives a lot of good options. But it also kind of solidifies that the Shankui is going into the solo, which you'd love to see in the first place. Marty did receive a lot of nerfs over the past year or so. Has been really top of the game, but isn't as much anymore. And the biggest thing with the Marty is if you can lock him down, he's not going to have a lot of value. And when you have a Maui Thor Ratatasker, it is one of those question marks of how easily is this Marty going to be able to free cast in the backline. He's lost a lot of his survivability, he's lost a lot of his kind of defensive prowess, and only has a lot of good shred going into the rest of the fight. And not having any other physical to go with that Marty pick, you don't get a lot of use out of the protection shred. So that could be a bit of a question mark going into the Lil Noms draft, but it does complement the Freya nicely, as well as the Karen. On the other side, we do see two magicals being picked up. We see the Sol and the Nuwa.
Yeah, the Sol is interesting. Again, remember that Freya wants to look for a first blood, wants to look for a small advantage so that she can use it to snowball. Sol is the complete antithesis of that. There is no stronger level 2 in game than that Sol, and she will be on top of you. And remember when I said about that pressure in that duo lane? Maui Sol is wonderful pressure. So that is a great counter pick to this Freya Karen over on the other side of the little Noms.
Yes, and Sol has a lot of good pressure into the late game as well, but Sol also suffers the same issue as the Marticarus, which is if you get caught out of position, you die pretty quickly. You just don't get to separate in time. The other kind of pick that Kitsune went for was this Nuwa pick, definitely coming back into the meta. Does a lot of damage. With the right build, you can do about 1.5k on a squad.
Changer. If they're looking to set up, or if they're looking for something around objectives, especially mid to late game, you can instantly get that information. Even if you don't have wards out, you know where the other team is. And then on top of it, if someone is low enough, you might pull an Aegis. You might pull a panic or something like that, where they're trying to get out of the way of it somehow. but it can be enough damage to turn a fight depending on how things are going. The other side of that, though, is with the little Noms here, I'm seeing a good front to back where the Karen, the Zhongqi can get in, can disrupt. As long as the Bastet is able to distract or flank very well, there is a very good team fight presence there for little Noms. Kitsune seems to be more of a pick comp. They want the Thor to be disruptive. They want the Rat to get in there and just mess things up. You know, the CC chains coming out of the Maui with his ult and with the hook, and just trying to allow those magical damage dealers to do their magic in the back. But it's gonna be very difficult, I think, if you have to take that 5v5 fight if you're Kitsune.
Yeah, and that's going to be kind of the aim of the game going into this Game 1 match. Remember, these are best of 3s. But as we start getting into the matches, we are going to see how the builds kind of line up, how these teams start playing this early game. Especially for this duo lane, as we mentioned, it's going to be important to get that early lead and start getting that presence online, but it's how the jungle is going to rotate, which I think is going to define how some of these games are going to go, especially in this early game. And most people say the early game doesn't matter as much, but if you start getting clear farm rotations and putting the mid lane behind or putting the duo behind, that's going to be really important for both these teams. You know, you said yourself, the Nogitsune draft is more of a pick comp, trying to take one person out and then steamroll from there. Meanwhile, Lil Noms just have a very, very solid team fight. Yes, they're missing a little bit of CC, but for example, if you have a cat grabbing someone over the wall, you have 4 other hungry people looking to just immediately destroy that person. And again, same thing, we can just run forward and take as much as possible. But we are in the match, and anything that you're seeing in the draft section that is kind of a question mark for you, because I know there's one thing on that, I want to see if you pick up on it as well.
There's a couple of things that cause me a little bit of pause, but I'm a little worried about. Well, to be honest, I'm a little bit worried about where this Rat is going to go, if he's going to try and go the full damage there, because again, you do have a magical mid laner and a magical ADC. Ooh, Nick getting poked out there very quickly in the duo side, but it's. I'm a little worried as to how this is going to operate later on in the game.
Well, we know that this is going to be a crit Rat. If you haven't seen it, there is a tier 1 hidden dagger there, which goes into your usual rage / Deathbringer. So we can easily go into that crit acorn, meaning there's going to be a lot of dash damage. And if you're building any defense, like we often see some Rats do, going into that breastplate into Runeforged, you're ruining the point of going into crit. So we know that this Rat's going to be a heavy damage dealer going into this match. And realistically, Crit Rat isn't in the best spot right now. He hasn't been performing as well because it's the same thing about a lot of the other picks on both teams, which is if you get picked off, you don't really have much of ability going for you, and you're going to struggle. As we do see Rat looking over into this duo side, trying to see if they can pick out this Thor. Thor playing very safe near the tower line just in case, so Rat's going to have to disengage and go somewhere else.
Yeah, again, and we're going to see what these junglers are going to be able to do as we do see them come into the mid lane here, and oh, here we got a fight, and there it is! That first blood that we were talking about, so critically important, and down goes Venom. The mid lane Reticula is going to eat it first.
Hold on a sec, do we get a second? Red Pepper coming out with a double kill in the early moments of the fight, also getting the beads off the Marty very early on. This Nuwa is being set up very nicely, but getting 2 kills in your jungle this early, that's the free 500 gold from the first blood, and he's going to start building up very quickly to get that crit online as soon as possible. And Red Pepper's got a very good start going to this match, and Nogitsune looking good so far.
Yeah, the double pick in mid is very important, especially when you're looking at how you can sway that into advantage. Mid lane is critical because now that opens up the jungle for all of your farm. That opens up the tempo for the Nuwa to actually start pushing, because again, when Nuwa first came out, they had different types of mages, and it would actually tell you in their description. And the Nuwa was a pusher mage. So she is very good at clearing out that wave, getting things maneuvering, and she can use that to her advantage now as, again, 2 picks in the mid lane for that jungler. Allows that jungler a lot of freedom to move around in the jungle now. And Rage now online.
Yeah, the jungle is currently farming its 2 levels on the Bastet, but having that Rage online is going to be super strong going into the rest of this fight, because, you know, 4-minute Rage means that every time you're getting active in one of these ganks, which is what we're going to be seeing with this crit rat, you're going to be able to just get more stacks, get more crit, and that dash is going to be doing more once he has that nut online. We do see him looking for a little bit of a gank on the solo side, tries to get the dash onto the Shangri, but Shangri is protected by his own by the own wall on the Thor, pops the ultimate defensively and forces both Kitsune members to back away. It's a good trade for the LIL Noms there.
Again, that hammer out was critical. Yannickus turning, throwing, and out of there just in time, or Beemore was going to take his head on that one. So, again, slight advantage in the solo lane, but we're going to see how this develops. Again, Nogitsune getting that clear advantage in mid. Looks like it's going to be the Little Noms having the advantage in solo. And it looks like with the pressure, especially early on coming, it looks like Nogitsune is going to have a duo.
I love the really pointless tidal wave from McCarran, just trying to see if they can get something done, realizing it's too late once they've casted it, and it's just seeing it come slowly towards you. You think you can escape in time, but it's going to hit you and do nothing. So unfortunate for Lil Noms. However, he does have the prophetic, so he is getting a stack, so it's not entirely not worth. Thor going up into Hammer of Dawn, looking for a target after that gank from the jungle. Looks like he doesn't want to go in on that, goes back into tower line, plays a little bit defensively there. So Thor already kind of lacking. He has got the Solid online and stacking it very far, but this Shang-Kui already a level up is going to provide a lot of pressure into Ionicus. And if Ionicus gets his hammer thrown stunned out of by the Shang, that could spell death.
Yeah, and again, they're both going tanky right now because you've got both the vampire. Oh, as we do have an ult from the rat, he's going to try and jump in. Bastet going to be able to get out of there. But again, a lot of early pressure focused onto the solo side by Little Noms, trying to get that Zhong ahead. Because if they're able to do so, and get the early rotations out of the Zhong, that might help relieve the pressure in mid that is evidently there with this Nuwa now.
Yes, and you say that though, but the Monochorus was actually farming a little bit better than this Nuwa. Even though First Blood had been taken away from him, he's got that trans online going into the Solid to the second item, but has a slight level advantage, ticked over level 8 before the Nuwa did. Which means that this Nuwa's going to have a lot of problems going into the fights if they're getting out-pressured by Muddy after having a lead. So it's going to be on Red Peppers here on this rat to see what they can do in terms of CC setup and all this kind of damage, because, you know, minion Nuwa explosions are going to do a lot of damage in the late game. Rat could be in danger. We do have Karen and Bastet looking around, trying to secure that farm, but has to give it up. Has to be a little bit safe as the Maui makes the rotation over. Just a little bit in time, so the Rat's going to lurk, try and find a way in, looking for a duo gank, quite possibly, but the Freya's a little bit far away. A little bit staying on tower line, walks over a ward. We can see that the Freya's not going to even try and bother. That also pings it out for Casey Striker on the side of Lil Noms, making sure that he's around just in case that gank does go off. So a little bit of a waste of time for Red Pepper there, which is a little bit unfortunate, especially going off the lead that they had.
And again, this is quite common over in the duo lane. Usually, if there's a first blood or if there's an overpressure that happens, and as long as the person who has the advantage keeps that advantage, you're gonna see this where one ADC is basically in their tower and trying to get their purple just to get a little bit of farm, maybe taking that XP camp over there. But mostly they just stay safe and stay away, especially with a Freya, as it looks like we got a gank happening by the rat here too.
Yeah, Rat trying to make the debut back over in duo lane, gets whooped, and then Freya goes back to the lane. Like you just said, very, very safe to kind of play around. Once you know that the jungle is coming, you can play around your tower, try and stay alive. But in return, this does mean that he loses the shaman camp. So this Bastet's going to start getting a little bit ahead. Look for this blue invade as well. Thor did lose it on the last invade, so Thor needs to play very safe. But goes for the damage instead. The ultimate comes out, finds Thor, and forces the beat out. It doesn't get the blue secure, so that is another win for the little Noms. But in the middle fight, Red Pepper looking very, very low. Gets root by Freya. That should be a kill secured. It is. The Karen is around trying to find the target. Freya's bopping this Nuwa and Maui, but isn't able to come in and get what they need to. Bastet has made their entering and tries to get some damage off, but realizes there's not much fight left to go. And Maui's going to jump over the wall to his green buff. And that is that's the first kill on the board for little Noms.
And again, 1 for 1 in that fight. Venom had fallen before. It's not as valuable a death as the Rat is. Again, having those 2 kills, having that early pressure. But that being said, it still allows the Bastet now to a little bit of freedom to farm in the jungle a little bit more efficiently, as she knows she doesn't have to worry about going around the corner and accidentally hitting a rat. And just as I say that, here comes the invade. Yeah,
from one invade to another, Rat knows he lost the Shaman camp previously, so the Rat's going to try and look for something in return. As we see him looking over this duo side, knowing that CC is down on the Shang-Kui. Shang-Kui is a prime target. Thor doesn't have any help to work with. So with only Pythax around, a little bit safely. Hammer out, the ultimate is popped, so there's no one in the radius, but Rat takes another tick of damage, dashes away. Once again, B-More just pretty much saying, like, no, you can't kill me in my lane yet. There's nothing you can do. And we see him going into that breastplate tier 2. Or going into that breastplate second item, which is going to prove for Ionica, so just real challenge. Breastplate being so dominant right now in the meta. Once you got that Pythax, once you got that breastplate, you've got that cooldown, you've got that lifesteal. It's going to be very hard for this Rat to find a way in, which is going to be pretty difficult. But Rat does have that 1 stack of rage off that previous fight.
Yep, and he does, and the bow is actually on as we start to see the recipes are starting to finish as well on the Zhang-Kui. Again, having that little bit extra cooldown is going to help that Zhang-Kui not just survive, but thrive over in the solo lane. There's not going to be much this Thor or this Rat's going to be able to do over there for now. So, seeing where the Rat is, and again, with how immobile that Marticarus is, I would rather, if I was the Nogitsune,
we're seeing a lot of damage coming out. Nuwa being forced to go up into the air to survive all the ults being popped against. Little Noms had to pop 2 there, both tied and up in the air. So Nuwa stays alive at 1 HP, but in return, Red Pepper going over to the duo side and picking up a kill on Forget Nick on this Freya. Very vital kill, but they do still have pressure in that mid lane as they start making that rotation back. Marticarus has got that trans fully stacked, so has that cooldown going into that Soul Eater, but Nuwa has their second item online and has a bit of a farm advantage going in. Gets that first kill, but also has 3 assists. Definitely helped with the kill on the Freya. You can never argue that Nuwa ult is not useful. But Rat does have the crit acorn around, so he's got a lot of damage, and as we make this rotation in, we're seeing a lot of damage come out. Ultimate popped, beads popped on Bastet. Bastet is very safe into Rat, taking a lot of damage. Can they find it in time? Nuwa's here, takes the kill, but in return, Karen's going to take out the life of that low HP Ratatask and send him across the sticks. But now, look who's in danger. That health bar going down, down, down. That is the Nuwa out the fight. Maui finds a good island to try and take out Thoris here. Shang-Kui is here. Shang is going to try and get some free damage off into this fight. Soul popping the ultimate, trying to disrupt as much as possible, but 4 members of Noms, all pretty high in HP. There's no way for Nogitsune to get their way in as this beacon fight is going over. Stellar Burst going to try and find a target, hits the Shang for a little bit of damage, but just not enough right now. And that is a beacon going the way of Lil Noms, and also just a fight going off in the way of Lil Noms. Soul is playing with fire here, trying to go and disapparate quickly. The Marty can't find the damage he needs to, living this 1 HP. The 1 goes down, doesn't find the target though. The Nogitsune getting away with a little bit of murder there in terms of their own safety.
Yeah, and that just seems to be status quo in the mid lane right now. Venom is just far enough. I will say this, he's just low enough in damage that it's so close. He's had both the Rat and Nuwa, and now the Soul so close to dead. One, maybe two autos or one ability, and just hasn't been able to close it out. That's how tight these tolerances are. On the other side, though, and this kind of worries me for Nogitsune, they have the CC. We saw the CC. Rat goes in, gets the knockup, gets the stun. We see the Nuwa go in. We see the Maui pop his ult, and then Thor drops his ult. But they're all staggered. They're not together. They're not on a same target, and because of that dispersion of CC, they only get the one kill, and then they kind of disapparate and lose the fight at that point.
Yeah, that's kind of what Nogitsune is going to be the downfall of, is if you'll start splitting the damage, you're going to struggle to find that targets. Rad is doing a stellar job trying to provide and be like as utilizing as possible for this new one. We see it in a lot of these team fights, as you know, he's got 3 kills, 2 assists, he's been a part of everything so far. But the Nuwa is gonna struggle in terms of positioning unless the support is there to kind of assist in that backline. And we see from the LIL Noms they don't have the best dive going into it, but just the poor placement of where everyone is in those team fights causes that death. But on the flip side, we do have a lot of good damage coming off from the Noms. We see that pressure taken out on the beacon after that Shang Kui rotates, and this Shang Kui is a menace already. And they start looking at more in this Gold Fury. We see a fight breaking out in the mid lane, Tidal Wave coming out, forcing the beats out of Nuwa, also getting the ult from Marty, not doing anything, looking for an ult from Crumbion, doesn't find the other knuckle, but this Rat is going to be looking for some damage. Thor is here as well, Ionica is trying to find a way in. World Tree being popped to try and find a target once again. Over the beacon fight, Marty's going to build up a chopping block. He's taking a lot of damage. Stellar Burst secures the kill, but now Sol's going to be the target for this Bastet. Bastet comes out, forcing the beads, and I think Sol is going to perish. That is a case. Forget Nick picking up another kill into this fight, forcing the Nogitsune draft to fall back once again. They're going to start looking for more of this rotation. We see them lurking in the jungle as they start looking for this first Gold Fury of the game. And what a clean team fight for LIL Noms. They're only losing the Marty Chorus in the start of the fight, but Marty did everything he needed to. He did the damage, died for it. That's kind of what we expect from this draft.
Yeah, and again, it's like I was saying before, the overlap of the CC, they started to do it really, really well. That's why the Marty died, was that Rat goes in, finds the low health target, drops in on him, and at that point, chaos can reign because he's got that disruption. The problem is, as soon as that happened, there was very little follow-up. His teammates were so far away from him that they were unable to kind of counter that and press that advantage. But we do see that in exchange for the Gold Fury, it looks like Nogitsune is going to take that Pyromancer.
Yeah, and that's going to be what keeps Nogitsune around, is just keeping up those farming patterns. So even though LIL Noms are kind of winning these trades, Nogitsune are still there in terms of the gold capacity. And that's going to be really good in terms of this farming potential. Be more looking for a little bit of aggression onto this Thor. They're going to teleport out as kind of we expect. You do that little bit of damage, throw it away, make sure you are safe as possible. We have the breastplate being built on Thor now, so he's got that cooldown, going to go into that glyph, but he's also got the that magical defense in Genji's guard to try and survive the brunt of what the Shang Kui's doing. But Shang Kui 2 levels up on Thor, and this Shang Kui is going to be very important for all of these team fights, especially once you pop Expose Evil and throw that ult out, try and get all those spirits to just demolish anyone that's kind of walking in your way. Mari, on the other hand, we do have that Stone of Binding come out, so if we are able to see this collective CC coming out into one target, there's going to be a lot of damage that comes out. And also Ratataska finishing that Deathbringer. He's got full crits, 2 crit items, 1 stack away from a fully evolved rage, but also has the nuts available, so he's going to be critting pretty much every time he dashes on someone. So confirmed CC going to be very useful for this Nogitsune team. We just need to see it in action, and that's going to be what turns these team fights, I think.
Yep, and not only that, but crit very strong right now. I will say it's not as impactful as it has been in the past, as we do see a little bit of posturing happening in the middle here. And Rat almost goes down. Ooh, almost with the root there. Forget Nick being so close there. Here we go.
A lot more CC coming out from the entire LIL Noms trap, already taking 2 people out of the fight. A great pull from Maui. Finds the island, forces the ultimate, but that should be another death. The Maui falls as 3 members out of the fight. We do have Rat making their way back in after being 1 HP, looking for that World Tree, trying to find a target on that KC striker. and is trying to find the damage, but gets the beads and forces the back away. But with 2 members fully out of this fight for the next 10 seconds, Nogitsune are not going to be able to contest this 5-member strong Noms draft. And realistically, this Noms are just running this game right now. What do you think Nogitsune need to do to start winning these team fights outside of this CC that we've already talked about?
So we've been talking about the CC and the layering of the CC. It shouldn't be, though, and this goes back to that pick comp that we were talking about earlier. It shouldn't be the CC layered upon things like Vmore and Venom and Donuts all at the same time.
We see a lot of damage coming out. That beads has been popped by Thor. Thor's so low. We have the jungle making that rotation over as well, trying to find a way. Or the Magikor is trying to find a way in. But we see another fight coming over at this tier 1 tower as the fight comes out. A lot of damage coming in. Thor going up in the air. The unit's made over safe, but he might die to the Nuar. He doesn't, looking very damaged. The Thor does get the kill, but in return, Casey Striker picks up Pepper, taking out the crit crowd from the fight. Lil Nom still very healthy going down this lane, but the Bastard has no mana to work with. So he's going to safely disengage, call the Lil Noms to fall back and start taking what they can in terms of that farm. That blue buff has been sacrificed, so Sir Ionicus not being able to receive that again. Using those bushes for a little bit of movement speed to get back to that rotation in that mid lane, waiting for this Pyro to spawn. And Nogitsune just, again, a little bit too late. Red Pepper is not having a lot of survivability with this crit build, and we see him the second he gets out of position. This Noms draft is punishing him and forcing him in the grayscale.
Yeah, and it as I was saying before I was rudely interrupted by that team fight. We do see that the Noms, again, taking that 1-for-1 trade, but I'll take that trade all day. The support for the jungler, it's the impact is just immense there. The other flip side of this, we were talking about the CC and how it needs to go into this pick comp. As we start to get into this mid to late game sense of things. Wow. Okay.
Soul trying to take the corner approach, just looking for some farm, gets hit by a random tidal wave out of nowhere.
Yep. For the sake of it.
Just in case, Lil Noms are looking for that extra damage. As soon as the fight gets come out, Master Fisherman does find a target onto 1, but it's just not enough to follow up CC, so Rats goes in, takes a lot of damage, and falls. Thor also 1 HP, has to hammer away. So this Lil Noms draft there looking hungry. Soul falls in, looking for more damage. You're trying to get the damage off onto the Freya, but Freya takes that kill. Casey Striker picks up another one onto Sabnova with no damaging rolls available. Ionicus and Crumbion versus the 5-man strong Lil Noms draft. Lil Noms have a lot of pressure, but don't have the HP to pull that Fire Giant, which is the cover box. They are going to go for this Pyro instead and start looking at what else they can do. They look to the Fire, but they're always going to back and reset, get some more items online, and then come back. And once again, just Red Pepper being taken out of the fight immediately forces the Nogitsune to just play from behind. And they're really struggling without that jungle there.
So this is what I was trying to get into before I was interrupted again, which is when you watch the CC land, it's on the back line consistently. They're not trying to hit the entire team. They're just trying to hit the carries in the back. The problem is, as soon as that happens, you have this thing called a Zhang Kui that disrupts them instantly. The backliners turn upon that rat, which again does not have the defense to survive. There's no sustainability there. And because of that, the rat dies quickly, the Thor dies quickly, the Soul dies quickly, and instead of having this front-to-back team fight or a pick comp where you're looking for someone who's out of place, you end up just getting blown up, or like that last fight, it splits the fight into 2. The front line disrupt your backliners so that there's no follow-up damage, and those that just dove in are now sitting ducks, and you've got to rely on a hammer to get out rather than doing damage, or you've got to rely on an ult to get out rather than using the stun. And so it's going to be very difficult for Kitsune. They've got to coordinate their front to back and make that fight so much tighter than it has been the last 2 or 3 team fights.
Yeah, and that's going to be what's going to be very important for this Villain Noms team as we see them start pulling this Fire Giant. The Nogitsune have to try and find their way in. We see World Tree being popped. Tidal Wave comes out trying to find a target. He lands. Lil Noms do secure the Fire Giant though. Kill Rats once again. But now there's more people around trying to find the target. Maui taking a lot of damage, but does some good healing to keep Sabnova alive. Sol also disapparating in time. We do see someone in the very back, Ionicus, once again being put to 1 HP, having to disengage. So the Lil Noms goes out Death Bullet trying to find a target. Bastet picks up a lot of damage, kills one, the other one's killed by Venom. But these H bars very, very low. Ionicus trying to find a cheeky kill onto KC Striker, but Freya picks up the last remaining member of Nogitsune. It's just this Thor, and they are chasing Thor down. Decide we've got the Fire Giant, let's just push down these towers. One person on the beacon as you start getting this. And this, with the death timers, you know, Red Peppers is back up again, but this could be a Phoenix kill of one Fire Giant.
Yeah, 20 seconds you might be able to get the Phoenix out of this, just because you do have a little bit of extra time, and they will take that mid-Phoenix. But we'll see if they want to go for that tier 1 over on Duo side, and it looks like they are rotating that way. But again, going back to that last team fight, it happened again. The Thor and the Rat dove in the back, and they were so split up. One was on one side of the pit, the other was on the other side of the pit, and the front and the back couldn't come together to support each other. Because of that, again, there's no survivability, and you're relying on some sort of teleportability to get out. Rat doesn't have that because he just used it to dive in, and the Rat goes down again.
Yeah, and that's really what it comes down to is Rat did try and make a hero play to try and steal the Fire Giant away using War Tree, but just wasn't able to secure it in time and then kind of gets punished for being by himself. Ionicus slowly makes his way in afterwards using Hammer of Dawn, but again, just gets forced out pretty quickly, but he survives again. He's still not died this set, regardless of how bad these kind of dives have been for this Nogitsune draft. He's still not died. He is playing very safely, which is definitely something to talk about in terms of what you want from your solo laner. He's not feeding in any way, shape, or form. He's just not able to confirm that extra damage. Is the first person on the team to reach 20 as well. So Ionicus being just not having a good time, unfortunately.
Well, he also is absolutely the tankiest member of that team. If you look at his build, it's insane. I mean, and now he's got Pesty online, so that's going to at least take some of the healing away on the other side. But Marty's up to 5 items now. You know, they now have 4 members. The Noms have 4 members now at level 20, and that Freya is going to really, really start hurting. Kind of surprised there's no Cyclopean there, but that's okay. They're using the Titans, that little sustainability, and goes to that goal. Here we go.
The Tidal Wave finding 2 members and pushing someone else immediately, trying to find that target. Sol is the first to fall, he has to use beads and still doesn't make it in time. Thor's going to have to beat as well, trying to find some damage onto the team as the Titan walks into the Phoenix. These health bars go lower and lower. Marty picks up 1. Pushes Sabnova away into the well as they try and find Crumbion as well on Maui, forcing 3 members inside of the well. This Shang Kui taking nothing in terms of damage. It's just walking at them for free as this Titan taking damage here and there. The Order Titan was still just bashing on it, takes out the Chaos Titan with 5 members strong with Fire Giant. This Lil Noms team was pretty much unstoppable going into the Nogitsune team. So Nogitsune do lose the first match, first game going to the Noms. We need to see a big change up for the Nogitsune in this game too.
Yeah, I think they need to change up. Either they can keep the same draft and they need to change up their play style a little bit, or they need to change up their draft to fit their play style. They really like to have 1, maybe 2 members dive into that back line and be disruptive. If you're going to have that, you need somebody that's going to be able to A, survive, and B, you've got to have an ADC or a mid laner that's going to be able to step up and finally, you know, start putting pressure. You know, have a little bit of, you know, CC immunity, have something to get them into that back line to finish off those damage dealers, those squishies in the back, because once you do that, then you turn the fight. The problem is they were unable to do that at all, and it kind of they paid the price the last 2-3 fights there, where things split, it wasn't cohesive, and when the Noms came together as that cohesive unit, they just started steamrolling.
Yeah, and that was really what they wanted from that draft. I mean, this B-more on this Shankui was really a key moment going into these fights. You had the supportive damage of Venom, a lot of CC coming out from Komigogo Nuts, just allows you to just walk at this Nogitsune draft and just really say, like, there's not much you can do about it. You may have a crit rat, you may have a little bit of CC on the rest of your team, but we can just walk at you and take it. There's going to be no issues for us whatsoever. And we saw that in that final Titan fight. Just being able to walk at someone, take out all their relics, take out all the ultimates they need to, and just come out pretty much unscathed. But that is game 1. Things could definitely change in game 2, depending on what they want for their drafts. So we will take a short break as the teams get resituated and come up with a new plan. Hello everybody, welcome back to Quack and Smitely QSL. My name is Sparktow, I'm joined by Red Sniper 23 and Brokazoid on The Spectator. We are in a best of 3 right now. We have just seen Lil Noms have a pretty dominant game 1 going into this. So Lil Noms the team to beat in this game 2. What do you think Nogitsune need to do to kind of out-pressure the Lil Noms on what they have going for them?
Well, I kind of alluded to it at the end of the last game. They either need to... Well, first of all, they're starting off on the right foot with banning the Freya. But
Yeah.
they either need to suit their playstyle to their pick, to their comp, basically, or they need to suit their comp to their playstyle. Because last time they drafted more of a pick comp, but they were playing almost in this split fight sort of style. They weren't really allowing the other team to split into 2 or 3. They ended up getting focused down, and then that's how the fights were turning. They weren't getting the picks. They were just kind of diving, disrupting, and then dying. So Nogitsune needs to have that disruption, that's fine, but then there needs to be a quick follow-up, either a mobile ADC or a mobile mid laner that allows them to get in there, to deal a lot of damage. Even a burst mage, something like a Baba Yaga would actually be pretty good. Something like even a Merlin would actually be really nice with their style right now. But we'll see what they're able to do here. Noms, again, with that front to back like they had last time, they had a clearly defined front line, a clearly defined squishy, and they were able to just kind of snowball and maneuver, although they're not going to have 2 of the 3 that they had last time, as the Freya and now the Charon going to be dropped as well.
Yeah, that is 3 supports off the board. The Athena and Ganesh, previously from the Game 1 bans, also not being allowed to play again. The Pele has been kicked out as well. Wukong also getting a ban this time around. Wukong was left open in the previous match for that top 3. And then obviously, like you said, the Freya has been gone, but this leaves quite a lot of good picks. You know, all the runes still available. Another very powerful mage right now, the Raijin, has been picked up by Lil Noms for that first pick, and that is the dangers of this pick and ban phase. Is what do you have to give up to sacrifice something else that you need? So this Raijin going to Lil Noms, especially with how Venom was playing, which is very aggressive, this Raijin pick fits very, very nicely. But in return, they do give a Sweaty Sacks Chernobog, which is going to be a bit of a game changer.
Yeah, and Raijin, yeah, you could give it to Venom, but Raijin could go into the solo lane too. I've seen solo lane Raijin very, very strong right now. But yeah, if you're not picking a magical ADC, especially a Freya or an Olorun, the Chernobog is your next bet, because it's going to give you that global pressure. You can split push very easily. You can do an amazing amount of damage, and on top of it, with that stim, you're just allowed to keep hitting over and over. It has that sustainability to it. Now, if there is someone that might be able to outdistance, get that poke off, be able to turn that fight, it's going to be the Hachiman, and Forgetnik's going to pick that up. So now we've got potentially a mid laner, potentially solo laner, and an ADC, and it looks like probably with the Hades going to go into the solo lane. Again, could go mid lane, but mirroring one another right now, I don't see any counter picks or counter play at this point, though.
No, I mean, a Hades is always going to be kind of hard to go into. You know, last season, in Season 9, it was very much a Hades meta for the longest time. And now that we're bringing these mage solos back into line, with these breastplates, with the just kind of lifesteal damage builds that we're seeing, and we saw B-More actually pull out of in the game previously, it's going to be very hard for them to counter that. But what we do see is we see a Hercules being picked up. Now, again, this might not even be a solo pick, because I've seen a lot of Herc support recently, and it's been doing kind of numbers and kind of playing into this mage solo. If we do see this Raijin go into the solo, the Raijin does very well into Hades. In terms of the what you could do in return, though, is kind of go for someone with a little bit of anti. We're seeing a lot of Cerberus being played recently, and Cerberus will definitely do a lot of work into a Hades. Sure, you can get out of Stygian Torment pretty easily, but you also take away a lot of what Hades can do in those fights. But the Hercules being picked up is one thing. The support for the Nogitsune is going to be the Bacchus, and that was a pretty clear-cut one.
Yeah, and remember we were talking last game especially about how duo lane now is all about that early pressure, because once you get that early pressure, you can kind of hold it through that early to mid game. Last game, it was, okay, you've got a Freya, I'm going to take a soul, I'm at least going to take that early game away from you. And that advantage really never materialized into anything worthwhile as the game progressed. Freya was able to just destroy whatever she came across once you hit that mid to late game. Bacchus Cherno, however, is going to be extremely aggressive. That Bacchus is going to get in your face, going to knock you up, going to stun you. Eventually, he'll drop his Intoxicate, but that is going to be one annoying god to play against. Now, on the other side of that, Bacchus has a leap, Cherno has a dash, and Hades actually also with his tunnel ability also has the dash. So, okay, never mind. I just saw they just banned that Awelix there. I'm like, yeah. Oh, the Awelix would have been perfect.
There is a lot of good bans coming out in the second phase. You know, we talked about the Merlin being a good presence for the Nogitsune team, but that is banned away. Pretty well-known character for the Lil Noms, also taking away the Kamazots. Meanwhile, Kitsune, they want to focus more on the jungles, take away the Awelix, which would be a big threat, especially with the Hercules on that team, and also take away the Monkey. This does leave a few good picks available, and we do see Nogitsune come out of that ban phase and pick up the Hera for the mid lane. Hera definitely coming back into the meta. Again, immobile character, like the Nuwa. But with Argus there, you kind of turn a little bit team fights, forcing a 6v5, drop it on the backline, do a lot of damage, or you've got a lot of survivability as well, which is the one thing the Nuwa doesn't have. But on the other side of the table, finishing off their draft, Thor being last picked, and then also a Morrigan showing up in the game. Not seen a Morrigan for a while.
Yeah, that one's been interesting. The Morrigan is a very niche god, to be precise. You have to have an understanding of what you're going into and know that some of those gods could counter their own lineup. So Morrigan switching into something effectively is going to be critical. Otherwise, you know, oh, I'm the Morrigan, I'm just going to go into a Raijin or going into a Hachiman, but not having the survivability when, oh, I don't know, say a Loki is stabbing you in the back, it could burn you very, very quickly. So, as we do see things getting switched around here, it looks like that is going to be a solo lane Raijin going into the Hades.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of makes sense with how the draft was panning out. We see Morrigan going into the mid lane instead of jungle, KC Striker taking the Thor into the jungle for that global presence, and then Raijin in the solo, which is going to do a lot into this Hades. But you were saying with the Morrigan, you know, what do you want to pick into? But they could do like a double Thor ult, because this is, you know, this is going to be a Thor damage, so this could be a lot of quick teamfight damage for the Noms, and with how they were playing with so aggressively, that could be up for a winning. Or, if you were feeling a little bit spicy, you could turn into the Hades and just go into the backline and set up for your Hachi, for your Raijin, for your Thor. And this provides Lil Noms a lot of versatility going into this fight, which I think is going to be hard for Nogitsune to come back from, even with this Loki pickup.
You want to talk about something even more spicy? Split double pushing August as the Morrigan and going into the Chernobog and being there for the team fight.
Yeah,
so having that capability, yeah, I mean, taking that ultimate as your own immediately counters that Chernobog split push play. So, and because you're the Morrigan, because you have abilities that go through and clear very well as that mid lane mage clear, it's going to be a phenomenal time to try and get both of those to work at the same time.
Yeah.
Again, if it works well, I think the Lil Noms do have a bit of an advantage. They've got the CC, they've got global pressure, and they've got a ton of damage. Kitsune, I'm not the biggest fan of the Hades just because when he goes into the ultimate, it's, hey, I'm a glowing pillar of shoot me here. Um, so we'll see. But again, how is the Bacchus going to respond? How is Argus going to be? Sorry, I mean Hera. Let's
Argus is right. Let's be honest.
let's be honest. Let's be honest. You play Argus just like you play Calder. You don't play Hades and or Hera and Scotty. You just play the others. But as they're going into these things, is there a right way? Yes. Do Nogitsune have the ability with this draft to be the front to back, the pick, the disruption? They have it all there, depending on their builds and how they utilize it correctly. Little Noms is very much a more traditional, I'm going to smack you, I'm going to CC you, and this is the way it's going to be. So we'll see which style comes out ahead here.
Yeah.
If Little Noms are allowed to play the way they played in the first game, I could see them taking this one. If Nogitsune, however, utilizes the full capability of the gods that they have selected, I really like their comp.
Yeah, Nogitsune have definitely gone for a different approach going into this match. They've got a lot of the options that can do more. They've got a lot more CC from the big stun from Loki. You've got the Pillar of Torment and the Fear from Hades. Bacchus, has a straight knock up, which is always going to be valuable because no DR, but also has a stun in that kit, and then just allows a lot of confirmed damage from both the Hera and the Chernobog. And we can't forget about the 2-second polymorph from Hera. That's going to be a big thing for the Little Noms to have to go into when they're diving the Hera. So they have a lot more tools to their availability this time compared to what they had in Game 1. It is, like you say, just a question of how they're going to use it in these team fights as they go into Little Noms. But Little Noms, they have a lot of good options as well. I mean, I talked about the Hercules support originally. You pick a warrior and people just assume it's going to go into solo, but Hercules has a lot of setup potential for, again, confirmed damage from this entire draft, really. B-More, Casey Striker, Venom, and Forget Nick, they're all very, very damaging characters and can play different distances depending on where they need to be. B-More and Forget Nick can play very much in the backline or play very aggressively depending on what you want from them. So what's going to be the biggest question is how a lot of this early game is going to go. We saw Red Pepper do very well in the early game on the crit rat, but we see him picking up a Loki this time, which isn't someone as aggressive. Kind of wants to farm a little bit more, just get the Jotuns online and just try and clear as quickly as possible and out clear this Thor. And that's going to be a big kind of question mark into how these fights are going to go as the teams start lining up.
Yeah, and I mean, just quickly looking real quick at, we've got War Flag coming out on the Hercules as opposed to the Benevolence coming out on the Bacchus, so they're looking to be aggressive already. That does, however, counter what we're looking at with the duo lane especially is kind of an oxymoron right now. The Benevolence is going to be great for that Bacchus Cherno. Cherno goes to Cowl instead of DT or Arrow, but the Hachi's going Arrow, which means he wants to get to that late game quicker. So he's going to try and push that build, and again, he's going Gauntlet, so it's going to be Devos. We'll see if he can get to that a little bit faster now. Kind of interesting how this is all lining up already as duo lane here. We're going to see if the pressure comes out fast and furious. As, again, last game, Nogitsune had that real quick 2-0. Or I should say that double kill in the mid lane by Red Pepper. Let's see if they get that pressure. Right now, it's still, again, it's still early. We're only 40 seconds in, so.
But the Loki does have a bit more pressure. Ooh, we do see a good pull coming from the Hercules, taking a lot of damage in this Bacchus. Bacchus might be the first blood.
Bye-bye, Bacchus.
Perfect driving strike to secure the kill. First blood going to come Yogonauts, and that Bacchus a little bit out of the safety of their tower. No jump, not being able to use it for any clear. That's a very, very quick first blood that little Noms really want to take on. And then we also see the Thor and the Morrigan have to play on the tower line, giving up a lot of the farm for this Loki hero. Loki,
yeah, I think that.
Go on.
I was gonna say, I think that first game, the quick 2 deaths in the mid lane, forced them to think about how they're going to approach that mid lane. And again, we see. Oh, here we go.
Loki has gone invis looking for a target. Find some damage, actually forcing the dash away, so they're going to try and take this Hercules as the bait. The shell is popped, but with 3 people down, getting a lot of good backstabs coming off, hit the autos. Hercules playing the wall, giving it up to the Loki. Loki does get the kill from a good successful gank, and that's what Red Pepper needs to get into this fight, especially after giving first blood to the Herc. So he's going to get the gold buff as well, which is going to be another good piece of farm as the kind of fights break out. The Carapace Shard on the Loki, I'm sure you might have noticed it, but Carapace Shard not being built for a lot of people, but gives basically true damage if you're able to get that auto off, and Loki very adept at pretty much getting in those autos when he needs to.
Yeah,
so
I was just gonna. I was just looking at that and going, that's interesting that we'd go the true damage route there, but also looking at what has been used, what hasn't been used. The Cherno utilizing that wing shard early almost has it, has another minute before it's up again, but holding on to the shards, and I'm noticing especially into as we see that Raijin pressuring there, as Raijin. It looks like it's going to be Thor. Yep, they're going to get that invade off.
Yeah, unfortunately Loki couldn't get there in time, but look who's around. The Morrigan is also sitting around corners as we see a cheeky kill into ADC, losing the Sweaty Sacks in that fight. Loki trying to look for a return fight onto this blue buff. The Mez comes out. Loki does secure it as well. That feels bad for the little Noms. Loki almost being ever present as his Hades are trying to sit on the tower line. He's got a lot of health, but doesn't have a lot of mana to work with. We see a fight come out. Argus coming in, finds the target, but both these targets pretty still high in HP, means they can't really do much worse to the team, so Argus is going to have to withdraw. But never mind, Stabnova is not, Crumbion is not finished just yet. Goes in for the belly flop, gets the double knockup, but there's just no follow-up on the damage just yet. We do find a good polymorph onto Hercules, but Hercules living a little bit longer. Just the standard mitigations on Hercules go brr. So a little bit of rotation from the mid lane, but doesn't end up too much. And with Argus down, that's a free dive for Thor when Thor gets around to it.
Not only that, but with the rotation coming out of the mid lane, that means that the Morrigan was able to farm freely and has now gained an advantage in this mid lane.
Yes, and with this back, we might see the first item being built fully as the teams start building up. So Lil Noms are playing a lot more passively going into this fight. They don't want to play as aggressive as they did. No, they don't want to lose too much to Red Pepper again. But they're playing it well, and that's all that really amounts to them. Good Pillar of Torment coming out. Raijin doesn't have the damage coming out, and that is a solo kill from Ionicus. Ionicus gets the slam down of the staff and takes Raijin to the grave. And that's exactly what you want from this Hades pick.
Yeah, B-More just ate that one to the face. That was not a great thing. Again, B-More had beads up, didn't use them.
Yeah, I was gonna say, he still has beads, he just took the entirety of Pillar. And he got punished for it.
I mean, he could have, used the beads, teleported out. Now, we're gonna get the wraparound here, but the Loki. There's definitely a gank here, and there's nothing he can do about it. Yep, okay, he's got to use the tick damage.
He gets the bleed, he gets the bleed also off in time. Chernobog also ulting in as well as the tower is being dived by this team. Hercules is just going to try and save face a little bit, forcing Nogitsune to back away. Nogitsune, this Loki again, proving to be very valuable. Given that Yosin's online, he's going to be doing a lot for his team, but actually playing way too close to the backline and forgot there's a stealthy little Invis character running around. But both teams do have Invis this time around. Venom on this Morrigan does have that, unique ability to just kind of be a menace and play like a Loki. Speaking of Loki, Loki's looking for a bit of damage onto this Thor. Carapace shot proc, doesn't take a lot of damage, misses the hammer throw, but gets Hammer of Dawn in. Morrigan making the return in, finds the stun, and gets the beat of Loki. Loki going to be invis, playing around. Argus comes in as a zoning tool. Thor have to back away, doesn't go for that kill onto Red Pepper. But with Argus proc, it's going to be support. We have the Bacchus getting pulled away, but no push into the rest of the backline. Heron's trying to do a little bit of more damage in this game, but is also playing very safely to not get caught out of position. I think that's really good for Sabanova. As the duo, or not the duo, the supports and the mid merge back into this fight. And Loki almost dying there. He just plays around the body of Venom just to try and stay alive, try and bait the Thor in. So really smart by Pepper there, and keeps himself alive.
Yeah, and I know we're early into this game. We're only, just about 7 minutes now, but we're seeing a completely different style of game than we saw in the first one. In the first one, Noms was able to play slightly aggressively in the areas where they were allowed to, but they didn't push things. They were able to stay a little bit more controlled. Now you can kind of tell that they're feeling themselves a little bit, and they're playing a little bit more chaotic. As we do see Red Pepper going down. Again, that Loki was just trying to be disruptive, trying to get in the back there and get that hurt kill. But again, we're seeing things that are a bit more chaotic than what we're used to, which, to be honest, plays a bit more into the Nogitsune style of playing Spike here.
We do see Chernobog wrapping around the entire time for that Turbo buff and takes it away from him under the tower, nonetheless. I'm pretty certain Sweaty is very happy with that kind of invade. Forget Nick struggling a little bit more on this Hatchet Pit compared to the dominance of the Freya in game 1. He's having to play a very different game against Sweaty, and Chernobog's always going to be very valuable. Has a lot of... He pressed beads this time!
Beads! Yes, be more! Yes, be more! There's the beads! Awesome!
We tuned in perfectly for that one. As we see the ganks in the jungles coming out, a lot of damage coming onto Hachi. Perfectly waits out the damage from the bleed, throws out enough of the horse time to get the ult in and secures the kill to forget it once again. Loki may have died, but comes back in pretty easily, but here comes the team fight coming out. Argus popped, Hammer of Dawn in the air to try and play a little bit safely, trying to find that target. Loki's going to get a lot of damage off onto the rest of the team. Thor lands into 4 members of Nogitsune. Thor, what are you doing, my friend? Gives another kill into Red Peppers, and now it's Hercules finds the Dragon Strike away. Here comes the Morrigan looking in. Who are you going to turn into? You have your ultimate, turns into Thor, hammers through, doesn't find a target, goes to the Hammer of Dawn as well, looking for another target. But what Morrigan are you going to go for, my friend? As Forget Nick comes back into the fight, he's going to disengage entirely, and the fight is going to stop from there. Morrigan probably could have chosen a better target to ult into there. Like, maybe if they picked a Hades there, you could have got a lot of damage off. Or into a Raijin, into the Loki. There's a lot you could have done there, but turning into the Thor does allow them to play a lot safer. They realize they were outnumbered and just use this Hammer of Dawn to get away as people start coming back into the fight.
Yeah, and here we go. We're seeing that tank meta come in once more again. Oh, look at the damage coming out. Beemore again. Just, again, he's got to play it safe, which is fine. He's getting a little bit more bullied this game than he was last game. But, again, we're seeing Noms are sticking close. It is 3-5 in the kills department. It's still close in both gold and XP. I mean, about, 700 either way at this point. So,
yeah,
it's not like things are getting out of hand. We're 10 minutes in. But we're starting to see that slow drip, kind of like what we had last time in game number 1, as we do see the engagement here by...
Hammer of Dawn lands with Sweaty Sacks. Sweaty Sacks caught out. Perfect wall placement by KT Striker means that Chernobog cannot get in time.
So you know that count we were talking about? There it is.
Yeah, there it is. That's kind of what we expected from this team. And it's a really good thing for the little Noms to get back into these fights, because so far we look at how the KDs are, some of these players and some of the level gains. you know, Loki has a level up on Thor and has been gifted pretty much every single kill apart from that one solo kill we saw.
Yep.
So Loki's pretty much feeding himself going into a lot of these fights. His Carapace, he's got a second eyes one line in the Hydras. So Thor needs to find a way to get back into these fights. Taking out Sweaty Sacks, who was at a level lead originally, has put Forget back on the board in terms of XP, but also gives himself a little bit more. The other thing to talk about is this Hercules. We see a very early spectral armor coming out from Hercules, and he's got 2 levels up on Crumbrion on this Bacchus. So Lil Noms still have a lot of presence, even though Loki has been doing a lot for the Nogitsune draft. And that's going to be what kind of puts Lil Noms forward, is they're really utilizing their farm paths, even though they're losing some of these team fights.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised to see the Spectre coming out this early in the game, especially when nobody seems to be indicating any kind of
Hades trying to find that target onto Hercules. Excavate comes out, but not enough in time. He's going to look to on support. Support falls, and Bacchus takes the kill onto Hercules. Hammer of Dawn thrown up into the air, trying to find a way in. I don't think Casey Striker wants to go in. And now the terms have been tabled, if you will. Nogitsune are going to be the ones to group up on this beacon. 5 members strong, as Loki is on the left side near the Oracles. We saw this pretty much deja vu in Game 1, but it was the Lil Noms doing it. Now Nogitsune are kind of really pushing the limits on what they did Game 1, saying, how do we change this up for Game 2? And we're seeing a big difference coming out, as momentum is calling them over to the Gold Fury. They still have a lot of HP going to this fight, but I don't think Lil Noms are going to take this line down. Here comes the team looking for a way in. Hercules finds a target. He steals it away! And Venom HQ picks up a kill onto Hera as well, mid for mid, and these Nogitsunes are looking very, very low. Look at that HP bar. Loki living by the skin of his teeth. Chernobyl dashes away. Pillar of Torment thrown out, keeps himself in place for a lot of damage. Thor finding a lot of damage as well, trying to find that target. Bacchus belly flops in, finds 3, pop shell, but doesn't survive in time. Ooh, what a turnaround for the Lil Noms. They steal the Gold Fury away, take out one person in Crumbrion, take out a second one in Sabnova, and force Red Pepper away from the fight. Super, super impressive, clean return kills from Lil Noms there, saying that they're not going to take any of this pressure lying down. Put themselves back in the game, put themselves in good positioning, and are starting to make everything worth their while. And we see Hades make the rotation over as well to make it a 5v5, but Lil Noms, they didn't send Beemor over at all. Beemor got to free push right lane and get some more farm. So Lil Noms won all that in a 4v5, which is no small feat.
Well, not only a 4v5, Argus was dropped too, so it was more like a 4v6. But again, we were talking about how Nogitsune needed to play Game 1, looking for those early picks, looking as a way to kind of snowball those fights. We saw Lil Noms do in that fight what Nogitsune was trying to do last game, and they executed that one very, very well. Now, the problem is, out of the 3 team fights we've seen, that's the first one that they've executed that well. So is that going to be a tendency from now on, where we're going to see that happen? Fights are going to get split, they're going to be able to, coordinate with one another and work that well? Or is Nogitsune going to, again, coalesce into that 5-man death ball, here comes Loki out of nowhere, and just instantly turn the fight? So yeah, we've got questions, and we're just into that 15-minute mark now.
Yes, as we do see more fights breaking out. Hades going to look for some more damage onto Beemor, but Beemor's going to take it pretty easily. He's got that defense online now. Both solos have opted for the Genji's guard as well as they start building into the breastplates. Pretty standard build from both characters, but the big change up for Nogitsune on this Hades is he's going into that tainted. So we'll actually see a tainted breastplate later on in the fight. It gives him a lot more survivability and takes away a lot of what the healing that Kamigogonos does. Because they really want to take out the support, and we've seen that the fights that Nogitsune have won have been taking away this Hercules out of the fight immediately. Once you get rid of that Spectral, that means that Chernobog can come in and just start pumping damage numbers out pretty much for free with this Demon Blade online. And I'm pretty certain we might see Loki go into a Deathbringer later on as well. We see him going into Serrated, which is kind of what we expect from the build for now, but could be an option, and I'm kind of excited for it. Unironically, the Hydra's Deathbringer does go hard.
I do wonder about that, though, as remember, the Hercules already has the Spectral on him. So that is already going to cut your damage into half. So now you're only doing an extra 25% damage on your crit.
I will say, however, though, the Loki is going to be looking for targets that are near the Hercules. The purpose of picking a Loki is to take away anyone that's out of position. And Lil Noms, the way they've been playing, there are quite a few times where they aren't playing as one unit. So if Loki can go in, start that fight early, and can get the rest of the team. Chernobog getting a lot of damage there. Great rotation from the Hercules, forcing Living Nightmare out. Living Nightmare going to go all the way over to solo lane. Guess it's at the one in time, but guess who's around Raijin still has ultimate, but Beemore misses all but one, but forces the beads out of Sweaty Sacks, and that is going to be a big win. As Hercules and the rest of the team is pushing that left tower, Thor left to defend by himself in mid, has to get away in time as well, using beads and Aegis to get away. Lil Noms struggling a little bit into this farm pathway as the Nogitsune make their rotation over to this Pyro with Argus around. 4 people means you can just take that pretty quickly, pick up the bomb. And now it's all on Beemore if they make their rotation over. Hades coming in, the dash comes out, but Loki 1 HP means that he can't make that gank. And Beemore's going to return safely back to his blue buff and start playing safe. But the beacon is around, so we could see another fight breaking out anytime soon. Bacchus gets a good start off into Hercules. Hercules going to put himself in a position, trying to find a way, and Polymorph comes out. Sabnova taking a lot of damage from the 2-and-1 combo from Morrigan. Thor lands, doesn't find the target he needs to just get. Pillar of Agony coming out. Excavate going to throw onto that backline. Ionicus taking next to nothing in terms of the damage. The team is so split on both sides. Here comes Loki looking for a way in. Going to get that sentry ward out and take away that vision away from the team. So Lil Noms, they do get the beacon almost for free off this play. They can disengage. And not really much happened outside of the usage of a lot of ults. Beemore does still have his ultimate available. Tiger Drums is available. Mounted Archery set available if they want to take on this fight. But with the Gold Fury available, both teams need to play pretty safe coming in. Hercules, we see a blink come out, I'm pretty certain. Tries to secure that purple buff, but Chernobog's going to take that one away pretty quickly. So both ADCs getting their buff means that we're not going to see much addition going on to the rest of these fights.
No, but we are going to see the pressure starting to come out here as we're 18.5 in, and we're starting to see towers fall. We're starting to see pressure take its toll, and we're going to see what this Chernobog is going to be able to do against this Hachiman, because we see the crit up, and here we go as
they're looking each other in the air.
I
was gonna say the classic of both people in the air looking for targets. So Chernobog going over to the duo lane once again. Thinks himself a lot safer going into that solo instead of the duo, whether it's the team is. But with Chernobog over in the right lane, this gives Lil Noms pretty much free pass to taking that Gold Fury. So the Nogitsune, knowing that they can't take that, gonna look for a cheeky kill on the two. Beemore Chaos. So Beemore pops beads and Aegis when the Loki comes in with the ultimate. Pillar of Agony comes in. They're using a lot of ultimates to try and secure the kill to Beemore, but Beemore living on 1 HP. Even the game thought he was dead. Beemore finally learning what relics mean and keeps himself safe from 4 members strong of Nogitsune. But Nogitsune, they aren't done just yet. Hercules making the rotation over. Call Me Go-Go Nuts is going to try and find some pressure, keep some vision along the rest of the team. And Morgan comes in, tries to find a target onto the Loki, but instead gets turned on. That is a Argus down, slap down onto Venom. But does force beads out of the Loki, which is definitely a good cooldown to take out of when you have Call Me Go-Go-Nuts available. Really interesting fights coming out. Lil Noms, they take the Primal Fury. Raijin stays alive at 1 HP, but then they lose a pretty safe and secure kill into mid lane just from a bit of poor positioning from Venom's half.
I just want to let you think about this real quick. When we switched over to Beemore to see how much health he had, it was ticking up to 44 health.
Yeah.
It was ticking up to 44 health. He literally had less than 10 HP, and that's what he survived on. He was probably down to single digits. Yeah. That is crazy.
And the fact that even the game thought he was dead. The game literally had the X marker on. The game said, nah, this man's done for. Escaped by the skin of his teeth. I'm sure BMO's feeling pretty happy about that one. But Hercules is going to be pulled out of position here as this fight starts breaking out. Takes a lot of damage. He's going to have to try and disengage. But guess who's around? Crumbreon finds the knock-up. They're trying to commit a lot on this Hercules. But the rest of the Noms, they are around just in case. Sweaty trying to find some poke off. Raijin is here, looking for that damage spread coming in. Hercules blinks in, trying to find a target, but it's going to take a lot of damage in return. Hades is looking for a way in. Pillar of Agony comes out, finds 3, forces a few ultimates away. Loki trying to find a target as well, but takes a lot of damage from the tower in return. Meanwhile, KC Striker lands into the pit of Nogitsune, finds only death. Call me Gogonuts. Look at these damage bars. We have Venom being next up. He dies. And Hera finds another. That is a double kill for Sabnova as the team of Lil Noms start falling apart during these team fights. They just can't stop the 6v5. And it's almost like this time around, Lil Noms are falling to the same issues that Nogitsune had, which is they have this pit comp trying to find a way in and are just splitting all the damage and splitting all the CC they need to.
And again, it's not just splitting all the damage. They literally split that last fight. You know, Thor went into 4 because he had this wonderful, you know, Hammer of Dawn right into the middle of 4 of them. Beautiful ultimate. And then there's no follow-up. Yeah. You know, B-More was out of it. Hercules was basically dead. That's the other issue that I have here. Last game it was the crit rat that we kind of had our questions about. This game, it's the Hercules. We knew that the Hercules was going to be a tough customer. We knew he has the ability to really mess with things to get that push off. The problem is Hercules works best when you hit the CC combos.
Yeah.
Go Nuts has yet to hit a knock-up this game. We're 22.5 minutes in, and I'm waiting to see him hit that combo knock-up push to really separate it out.
We've seen him with the combo a few times, but it's not really been important, and that's kind of what's going into this fight. Pillar of Agony also being used pretty early to kind of zone, more than likely. As we see the rest of the fight break out, Hammer of Dawn going in, and he's going to look for a target onto this team. Look at the damage coming out. That is Sweaty Sack's down and out immediately, but in return, KZ Striker, the jungle is fallen. Sabnova finds another kill onto Venom. Call me Gogonuts, the next up in line. There's 3 members down for the Noms. We have B-More trying to take out Argus by himself right now as Fragnik is going to take a lot of damage. Mounted Archery being forced out as well from the CC chain. And Nogitsune playing a very, very different game this game too. You have to wonder what Lil Noms are struggling with, but they just keep getting picked out and getting steamrolled by this draft. And, you know, we joke about it, but Argus is a very key factor going into these fights. You know, you have that knock-up on the initial landing, which is going to be a very important CC in the first place, but it's just a lot of damage as well as the polymorph.
And not only that, but the Loki with the follow-up. I mean, I think that's the big thing that we're seeing here, is who's dying on repeat right now. It's the Thor, the Morrigan, and the Hercules. And because those 3 are dying on repeat, it's that mid 3v3 that we talk about, how it's so important that they have that good synergy, that they work together, that they're able to overlap CC, that they're able to overlap damage, to coordinate things together. And what's happening is they're getting split up, they're getting picked off, and this Loki is being that key that Nogitsune needed that really the Rat didn't do in game 1.
Yeah, we look at the stat lines, we see Sarionicus currently going deathless, 107, but Loki being part of 10 kills, 6, 1, and 4, only died once in the early game, after being a little bit out of position, after a little bit of inting, a little bit of throwing, trying to take out a Thor, but also Hera 4, 1, and 5. So all in all, the Nogitsune draft is just doing what they needed to and playing their roles as best as they can. And Lil Noms don't really have an answer for it right now. We do see Striker just struggling to get those ults off on the right people, and that's one of the big questions for the draft. You know, we talk about the Herc, especially with his build that he has, but the Thor not playing a vital part in how these team fights go is also a bit of a worry and a bit of a concern for how Lil Noms are playing this, you know. it's going to be difficult for them to make their rotations in. But we do see the rotations come out as the teams want to start getting some more objectives. You know, the Pyromancer is going to be coming up soon. Fire Giant is also available, so the team is going to try and find a way into Nogitsune as they start splitting up in the backlines. We do see the target coming out, the Polymorph coming out to Beemore. Beemore is the one on charge. Aegis pops out, Pillar of Agony blocks the route, trying to find a way in. Hammer of Dawn, we see him hovering, is he going to find a way in? Hera takes that kill onto Komi Gogonuts, once again the support falls. Red Pepper takes up Striker. Striker just trying to do too much by going into the backline. And it forces the Lil Noms away, and with Argus out, that's still very healthy. This means that Nogitsune are going to start looking for this Fire Giant early on at 28 minutes, or 26 minutes even. And they can't really do much against it, you know. You have people around, but Sir Ionica is doing a great job of zoning, as is Red Pepper as well. But he's going to come in and try and get some free damage. Look at Ionica, he's just facing down the Hachi and just not worried about it at all. Nogitsune in the lead.
Oh, an ult coming out from Sweaty Sacks there to try and get pressure in the mid immediately. But again, no mid lane, or no mid minions, I should say. So he's just going to back off. That is just... Again, we see it's the Thor, it's the Hercules, the ones that are trying to disrupt, the ones that are trying to go in, the ones that are trying to get the CC chain right so that the other teammates can do damage. And it's just not there. Like the damage isn't there, the coordination isn't there. Noms seem to have literally flipped the script with Nogitsune. It's completely game one. Just blue side is playing like blue side and red side is playing like red side.
The curse of the colours, if you will. But I do think a lot of the reasons why Lil Noms struggled in that fight is Beemore got caught out of position very quickly. And the team just kind of fell behind. They tried to use everything to try and save their solo laner, but in return lost quite a lot. You know, once again, the core three that we talked about, the Thor, the Morrigan, the Hercules, they all fall trying to find this way in to try and save their solo, and it just gave Nogitsune a way in. And I think that's what's important is the development from game one. Game one, they just struggled to do anything with anything they had early on, but now they've got a lead. They are starting to use that lead. They're taking all the farm they can. They're taking objectives. They're forcing fights and winning fights that Lil Noms should be winning. So Nogitsune definitely playing a very different game. I think that's really important for how this game goes. And they are on the track to start pushing for some of these Phoenixes, but they're going to take the tier 1s down on duo and mid side and start backing off towards this Gold Fury. Do you think Lil Noms want to contest this easily? Do you think they just take it lying down, try and go for a steal? Or do you think we're going to see a team fight break out? But with how this team is spreading, I think that's pretty much a given.
Yeah, no, there's... With how things are going right now, I think the Noms are a little bit discombobulated. I mean, as it looks right now, they're about, what, 8k gold down. We're approaching that 30-minute mark, which is that critical mark. You know, Fire Giant's up at about 2.5. So we're looking right now at... So Nogitsune can buy up items, look to push out lanes. Once that happens, can they find a pick? If they find a pick, instantly go for that Fire Giant as soon as it spawns. If they don't find the pick right away, can we pressure a lane? Can we work on something to get maybe that tier 2 that's still left over in solo? Can we, force a team fight now that we do have that, that considerable advantage? It's right now the ball is in Nogitsune's court to win this, but it's also in Little Noms' court to not lose this. Okay, we do have a beats come out. There's that combo I was talking about.
Yeah, we do find the combo being used, forces the beats out of Sabnova, so Sabnova is going to be a prime target for our team, but Nogitsune, they're just going to try and find a way, and we find the pick coming out as well, but no push in return, as he uses the blink to get in, but Hercules by himself in that backline, he's trying to play the solo game, finds a push into Beemore. Beemore can come in, but Ionica is just going to pop in Pillar, and there's a lot of CC confirming damage onto probably Gogonuts. So Gogonuts and Beemore both fall. Next up, Hammer of Dawn does do a little bit of healing for the team, but great damage coming out of Crumbrion. The ultimate popping, taking 2 out at once, a double kill. It is just Striker versus the world. Nogitsune still 5 members strong. Crits coming out from the Chernobog means that Casey Striker is going to be focused here and taken away. That is a kill for Sweaty Sacks, and that is a game for Nogitsune. Putting themselves back in, this makes the set 1-1 and all to play for in Game 3. And what a great change of pace for the teams here.
Yeah, and it's almost like a tale of... how do I put... It's like a tale of two cities. It literally just flipped, right? That which was expected on one side became the storyline for the other side. That which was expected for the other side became the detriment to the original side. It just completely tossed and turned everything on its head. However, I will say this. In the last game, Noms had the kills spread out. Yes, the Freya was important. Yes, you did see the Bastet getting involved with the CC, and you saw those key pieces, but they were all working together. If I look at what happened here with Nogitsune, there is one thing that stands out like a sore thumb. Red Pepper with 22k damage only died once, but had 8 kills. There is the disruption right there. You take away that Loki, that's going to be important there. But also, I just want to say,
as well.
Yannicus there, yes, being that frontline, and I mean, you say frontline tank, but really it's frontline with the damage to boot. I mean, it's not just, the two soul laners smacking at each other, because as B-More with 8k damage on the Raijin, there's no smacking back and forth. Yannicus smacked, and B-More took it up the side of the head. So, there needs to be a reevaluation on both sides here. And I know we're kind of pushing this whole, ADCs really didn't do much damage here. We got 16k, which actually led the team for Forget Nick, and 16k for Sweaty Sacks here. But when you look at it,
the B-More Chaos on this first pick Raijin only getting 8,000 damage, quite literally the lowest on his team, and that was the first pick. So it's really important for what they want to do going into this Game 3 as to how they want to achieve the kind of win that they had the Game 1. Because they found out that this Raijin solo wasn't it. Whether this was Raijin mid and put Venom on the Raijin instead, that could have been a change of pace. But this, Ionicus, we talked about it, just was a key instrument going into the fights because he goes in, gets relics, but also does a bunch of damage and survives. 2-0-13 as a stat line, never something to complain about.
I mean, that's the other side of it, is look at the damage mitigated. Both Yannicus and Cumbrian have about the same at 29k, 29.5k. They both were doing their jobs in equal measure. It's not like it was just Go-Go Nuts literally standing there at 40k damage mitigated.
Yeah.
But again, Go-Go Nuts goes in, tries to get his CC off, and then ends up dying. That doesn't happen on the other side, because Bacchus gets the bounce, Hades dives in, and there's instant disruption with damage, with follow-up. So the front-to-back team fight that we were expecting came out of Nogitsune, not out of the LIL Noms.
Yeah, but this is a best of 3, so there is going to be another game to play. So we will take a short break on a stream here to go see what the teams are doing and prepare themselves for the Game 3. So we'll be back very shortly. Hello, everybody, and welcome to Quack and Smartly QSL. My name is Sparked I'm joined by Red Sniper 23 as my co-host, and we have Brokerzoid on the sticks, and we are in for a bit of a match, a bit of a set today versus the little Noms against the Nogitsune. Currently, the third game of the set. Both teams have taken a match pretty handily in both cases, so it's all to play for going into this game 3. We see game 1, Nogitsune take a bit of a struggling approach as Lil Noms are almost dominant for the majority of the match, but in game 2 they flip the script and start playing very aggressively and start really pushing the limits of what they can do in that game 2. So what do you think is going to happen for this game 3? Because now now the ball's in Lil Noms' court as to how they need to change up their draft to really work with the players that they have and go into what Nogitsune want to do.
Yeah, it's that is a good question because we've seen it both times where the team that picks the pick comp doesn't really execute it properly, and then the team that picks either a front to back or something that can somewhat operate front to back do so very well. And it's not like there was, in the Little Noms game, it was much more of a team effort. Things were a little bit more spread about. You do see, and I'm surprised that they leave it up, but you did see in game 2, absolutely that Loki was a menace to society. If he wasn't getting damage, he was flat out being disruptive. And so Athena getting through, this is the first time Athena's been able to get through in picks and bans. She's been banned out the last 2 games. Do you see this really making an impact in game number 3?
I think Athena is just one of those very strong supports that's always going to be valuable no matter what. And Crombion did play a very good backus in terms of initiation in the previous game, and Athena does the same thing, but a little bit better, that taunt being more valuable, because otherwise you're putting yourself out of position to really secure the damage they had, and luckily there's a lot of good follow-up on the Kitsune draft. But in return, they do lose 2 of the most powerful characters in the game, which is this Raijin and Pele. And I think, or at least I hope, that this Raijin will be focused more on the mid lane than in solo, because B-More did not have the best time on the Raijin solo. So hopefully if we give this to Venom in the mid lane, it could do a lot more for them. But the Pele also being open, very big change of tide for how this team wants to go. We do see Crombion, or we do see Sabnova pick up the Hera again. Now, Hera did a lot of work in the previous match. You know, we kind of said it before, but, you know, Argus is a very key character going into those team fights. And with how the kind of bans are going, it makes sense. You know, if it isn't broke, don't fix it. But this does leave a few other options available. You know, previously in game 2, the Sun Wukong was left available. But we are going to see a few different changes. So Ionicus doesn't get the Hades anymore. That's been banned out. But Sweaty Sax also does not get the Chernobog. That was one of the key characters that was let through for this Nogitsune draft. And that's being disallowed this time around. But instead, Sweaty Sax is going to take the Ishtar.
Yeah, and, you know, Chernobog is very good, very flexible, has that little burst, but also has the sustained damage. He's just a very, very good top-tier ADC right now. Ishtar, however, if you play her correctly, she has a lot of outplay potential. So, and now with how it looks right now, it looks like as the third one is going to get locked in, for both sides, they're going to be able to ban ADCs if they want. Now, again, the Freya was already banned, but you still got Oleron, you still got Soul that you can look at if you want to go magical. If you don't want to go magical, I mean, you still have a lot of availability now, with how flexible the builds have become. But I really like that Yamoja pickup on the Little Noms. Yamoja gets disruptive very, very quickly.
Yeah, and then you look at the top 3 picks for this Nogitsune draft, and no one can escape the River's Rebuke, and that's going to be a key thing for a lot of these team fights. We haven't seen emoji being played yet. We see a lot more of the backline disruptions rather than straight up splitting the fight, which is the one thing that Yemoja needs to really perform well. And obviously you have the healing, aspect as a key thing. So with Pele Yemoja, you've got a lot of healing there already. But being able to split the fight between the front line and the back line is going to allow this Pele to walk in and just do damage and survive as much as possible, which is going to be a key thing for this LIL Noms draft going forward. We do see in the second round of bans, there were a few key things going forward. We see the Loki being banned out away from Casey Striker, making sure that they don't have the opportunity to play that one again. Or not from Casey Striker, from Red Pepper. We see an Apoir being banned, but we also see the really dominant from game one, that Shang Kui being taken away, making sure BMOR can't pick that one up. But BMOR is going to opt for a warrior this time around. He's going to go for the Amaterasu.
Yeah, I mean, the auto attack gods have kind of been a little hit or miss depending on what it is, on how you play them, but Ama has been relatively solid. And it looks like Baba Yaga going to get picked up for the Nogitsune here. And again, that's kind of what they were missing in game one, was that long range, massive damage, come out, hit you all at once kind of mage. Now they have it. Ishtar can outplay you. Wait a second. Oh no.
Yeah, this is a Baba Yaga solo, my friend.
No, this is a Baba Yaga solo. Oh no.
they have lost the presence of the Pillar of Agony, but they do have a big house to support them this time around. They locked in the Hera previously. Sabanova did an amazing job on the Hera. But the Baba Yaga is going to be hard to kill, which is going to be a big important thing for going against this LIL Noms draft so far. So it's not like it's a bad pickup, but now, outside of the Athena, they are lacking a lot of CC. And that's going to be a big question mark going into this, especially with a Thanatos lock-in as their last pick in the jungle.
I'm looking at this right now and just thinking off the top of my head. So, you have a Baba Yaga solo. You have a Hera mid. So you gain it's 6v5 with the Hera, but because you have the house, does that mean it's now 5v5 again because the house is working against you?
It depends on how good you are at walking the house. That's going to be the question mark. If you can keep the house out of the fight outside of the ultimate, then you could be fine. But I can imagine it getting in the way a lot of what you kind of want to do in terms of displacement. But Baba Yaga is going to be able to escape River's Rebuke. That is going to be a key thing. But Thanatos being picked into the Yemoja is going to be a bit of a question mark. Yemoja can heal you outside of the execution range, provide some shields as well. And Thanatos can't escape it either without ulting. So Thanatos, it does play very similar to the Loki that we saw in game 2 that, Red Pepper did perform exceedingly well on. So it's the same play style, but not gonna be able to be as effective as I think he wants it to be for this game 3. In return, though, we do see the ADC being picked up, and it's going to be the Anher for Forget Nick. And Anher is a great dueling character. Is going to always have a lot of pressure, and it's probably one of the best characters to go into when you're fighting an Ishtar. Allows you just jump in, disperse, impale into a wall, into your pillar. But also just the slow from the pillar itself is going to be instrumental to how this team fight plays out. And I do think LIL Noms have got a much more cohesive draft going into this game 3. No Hercules support to try and not necessarily throw, but also just not has to play as aggressive to get in there and just get punished for it. So Komigo is going to be able to play a lot safer, do a lot more in this backline for the team. And I think it's going to be a better fight and a better showing of skill for both teams looking off these drafts. But is there anything that you're seeing as a clear defining win for either side?
Maybe not a clear defining win, but I can see what Yannicus is doing with this Baba Yaga, because I do it myself from time to time, and it's building it as a hybrid tank build. And so you can get that initial stacking damage off on this Baba Yaga, but you can also build the Prophetic Cloak, and because of that, with her ultimate especially, it will proc every protection. And so she can become extremely tanky while still doing a massive amount of damage. So to be honest, I think Nogitsune, if they can get the executes correct, I think red peppers can be a real pain in the patella, so to speak. But the other side of the thing is, and as we're getting into game here, the other side of it is, if I wanted the traditional front-to-back fight, that one game 1 and that one game 2, that's what the Noms comp is. That's just what the Nom comp is.
The only issue I take with that is the little Noms are doing a little bit of cooking on their side. You know, when we see an Amaterasu solo, we generally see the death's toll for that sustain, but we're seeing a warding sigil come out, and I think that's a bit of a misplay for what this Amaterasu wants, because warding sigil is not the relic that you're used to going for when you're looking at the team fights. Also, a bit of a change up from the we do see Nogitsune go for a double pull, but from purple to green instead of the XP camp, trying to get to lane a little bit faster. They do get that extra lead with, with Ishtar lob arrows. You are going to get a lot of clear pressure early on, especially with that cow going in. But what's it going to do for you? You're against the Emoja and her. They don't care about losing pressure because they can play extremely safe.
Yeah, so. And the Emoja is just going to say, okay, fine, I'll range autos, I'll just sit in the back, we're not going to have any problems. Speaking of problems, that was close there as KC goes after Peppers, drops him very, very low.
Peppers...
Mid lane's getting spicy again.
Yeah, speaking of getting spicy, we see the Blink come out to try and get some damage onto Thanatos, but Red Peppers staying alive is a little bit safe. But both the mid and the jungle for Nogitsune very low on HP right now. Need to play very safe. But Thanatos does have the scythe to heal up. But Pele playing this aggressively means that they've got a lot of power going in. So we see the splits on the mids. Nogitsune opting to go for left lane, so Thanatos is going to look for an attack on the left side, and Pele going to take the rights, but not going to make the rotation over to solo this time around. Just leaving the Baba versus Amber alone for the time being. Hera we can see being pinged out by the Pele. Pele's going to start making the rotation over as that gold buff gets dropped, so Thana's going to disengage, but Pele needs to be careful because with how much pressure Nogitsune have in that duo, we see them forcing the Emoja. Talon, as this fight comes out, Thanatos is in danger, taking a lot of damage. Hera throws out a 1 to zone, and Lil Noms are going to take that trade pretty willingly, but Thanatos again is just going to heal that up with the scythe going into those back camps. Look at the pressure that Nogitsune have right now, though. They're keeping an Anher Emoja on the tower line pretty much for free, but they're not forcing a rotation from KC Striker. If KC Striker is going to be valuable on this Pele, we need to see rotations over because they're just so far up and out of position on Nogitsune. It could be a pretty free kill, but I think they just want to wait for this level 5 to come forward. Another beam coming out to get the stun, but no follow-up damage.
I think the other issue here is, as we do see a gank happening over in solo lane here, the issue that we've seen previous as Yannicus is just going to back away, just going to walk away without a problem. Will pop beads in that engage. But,
I was going to say, you say not a problem, but that's beads down, because this is a Baba Yaga who hasn't gone teleport, so isn't going to be able to get back to lane fast. And Baba's going to start struggling, but also the beads was pretty worthless to begin with because you were already knocked up when you popped it.
That's true.
We do see a fight breaking out in return, though. The Thanatos looking for a counter invade, get some free damage off onto Amaterasu, but isn't going to really continue much, just go back to farming and try and put KC Striker down as much as possible. But guess who's here? Raijin and Pele. They're looking for that damage, goes in, tries to find the knock up, but Thanatos gets away in time, as the duo lane are going to fight over this shield buff. But I'm going to even try and go for the buff and go back to the wave as the Lil Nom is going to take the purple buff.
Yeah, and that's... If you've noticed the pattern from game 1 and 2, Pele doesn't really show up all that often over here on this duo side. The jungler just hasn't responded to duo lane as much as Nogitsune has, because the Red Pepper you have seen more of a traditional jungle pathing, and you've seen him go from solo to duo, helping out mid in the midst of it. The problem is, the emphasis by Lil Noms is throwing it behind B-More, over into the solo lane, working into the solo to get everything operating that way, so that B-More can have early rotations to help out the mid lane, and to try and snowball across the map that way. It just hasn't been effective, or at least it wasn't effective in Game 2.
Yeah, Red Pepper pops the horn shot to try and get the abilities on cooldown, and with the help of Hera, they try and come over, but Venom taking that farm away on the left side and puts Venom back down and forces them to back again. Red Pepper is playing with life, almost like the namesake of what Thanatos does, but it's very dangerous. As you see the dash taunt come out onto the Anher. Anher is going to be a little bit dangerous, but here we see the first rotation coming out from Pele. River's Rebuke is popped, keeping them in place. We see the blink come out, trying to find that damage coming in. Ishtar is going to be in the back line, trying to get some damage off, but look at that HP, just falls down. Anna takes the first blood. Little Noms are looking for it, and there's not much Athena can do. Tries to escape, but does not make Defender of Olympus in time. Crumbion falling again. That's 2 kills for the Noms, 1 for the Pele, 1 for the Anher, the 2 people you want them on. Perfectly paid by the Noms there.
And of course, as soon as I say something about, yeah, they favor the solo side, this is of course what happens. Caster curse on myself. But there is that understanding that as this happens, we've only seen KC go over to the duo side about 3 or 4 times a game. And the reason for that is to instantly relieve pressure. Whether he gets the kill or not, he relieves the pressure and then goes back over to solo side to help out B-More, to be a little bit more influential for mid to late game, not in mid game. However, I will say, Lil Noms now have the 2 kills, which is kind of not a good omen as how the series has been going.
Yeah, it's kind of the curse of what they are, but realistically, it's really what the Noms needed. We talked about it before, but all they need to do is relieve some of the pressure that Nogitsune had, pushing people on the tower line, and we see a perfect rotation from Striker to go in, alleviate that pressure and get 2 kills off it. So it sets them up for a good time, and also gives Pele a bit of a farm advantage. The question mark going into it, we see the changes in builds, and we see it being common there. Golden Blade for the Amaterasu for that clear pressure to help with not having Death's Temper or Death's Toll, but also Anher going for the first time out of all 3 games into that Asai instead of Deva's Golem. We see the rotation coming out, Amaterasu popping at the ultimate to try and get that CC immunity. The house thrown out as well, but she's going to decide to give up and go for the Bastions. But with a Yamodra around, they're going to try and find that Water Woman around, but nowhere near close enough to actually get damage off. So few ultimates being used on the side of Noms, but also both ultimates from Crumbrion and Ionicus being popped out on Nogitsune. As we see the teams kind of disengage, go back to where they need to be. We see the farm being prioritized by the Pele. Gonna get it off pretty quickly as Thanatos going for an invade on the purple buff. Thanatos does get it in time for getting it out on that purple, means he's going to be a disadvantage against Sweaty Sacks on this Ishtar.
Especially with Ishtar having the type of clear that she does, not having that additional attack speed is going to hurt the on her. As what?
Pele is a little bit far from home right now as Hera's making the rotation into the solo side. It truly do be mage solo right now, and Pele's going to go away for free. That was an interaction of all time.
Yeah, I'm sitting here going, did I just miss something? And speaking of missing something, Sweaty Sacks goes down.
That is a clean solo kill from Forget Nick, really living up to what an Anher does, getting that free jaw pressure, and Sweaty Sacks has nothing to counter off it. Both ADCs did use their ultimates, and Sweaty was forced to use the beads as well as the shard. So just an all-in-all really bad trade for Sweaty there, Forget Nick coming out on top.
Yep, we're starting to see that slow snowball happen again. Again, a couple of the kills, a couple of early pressures here, but I'm waiting for the objectives to come. Again, we're only 8.5 minutes in, almost 9 now, and we're starting to see things build. We're getting into that double-digit, double-digit levels now.
Yes.
Sorry about that. I keep biting my tongue.
Oh, here comes Thanatos. We see Defender of Olympus coming out around target, but Great Rivers to be experienced the fight. Thanatos is going to be damaging. Here comes Forgetnik, gets the impale, but doesn't find the kill in time. Pele does get the kill onto Pepper, utilizes volcanic lightning, trying to find the extra damage. Athena trying to find a way out. Dash is blocked. There is no escape for Crumbion here. Crumbion has no chance but to die with Defender down. We do have Ishtar going to have to disengage, and that is a clean rotation from the little Noms. 2 members coming over and just shutting completely down Nogitsune, and that's going to be a Gold Fury onto the cards. But they're not going to get it knocked down. We have Hera coming in, drops the Argus, trying to find a polymorph onto the team, gets a lot of damage. The zone comes out, great ultimate from Swordy Sax to help peel for the Hera, and this means that the Gold Fury doesn't go in, and here comes the Thanatos, comes in, finds the first target onto Casey Striker, going back for more. He sees the Emoja in that threshold, looking for a target. He's going to look for it. The portal, or the Riptide comes out, finds the side, he's very slow. The Moonstrike comes out, come on! Thanatos can't find it in time, and now he's without defensive options. A great mez from the Raijin to keep him in. Thanatos thinking about coming back into the fight, but not enough health to really push out just yet. We have Crumbion come back in again, gets a good taunt off, but just no follow-up. Keeps the team alive. And that's really what it comes down to. After a really good team fight from the little Noms, where they start having momentum again, early Gold Fury, a great presence from Sabanova on this Hera and Argus, you know, we can't forget Argus, really turns how that fight turns out, and little Noms get pulled at the back.
Yeah, and again, it really should have been a free Gold Fury for the Noms, but they had 4 people there, they were ready to go, but they didn't have that zone capability from a Raijin or from, you know, anybody really. The pillar did come up from the Anher, but that's just kind of an obstruction, and they never were able to finish that Gold Fury by the time the Hera got in there and dropped Argus.
Yeah, and that's what it comes down to. You know, you had Hera at full HP and has the ultimate available, and you also had Sweaty Sax around just in case they wanted to full commit. But with Hovering Death being used, they just allowed Ishtar looking to get some good damage off onto the Anher. Blades of Vengeance coming out, really putting him in down the dirt, trying to get some Eagle Eye to shut him down. Forgetnik takes a lot of damage, but in return, the Pele is around. And with Sweaty Sax having nothing available, that dash being used aggressively, that is a free kill for Casey Striker. Defender of Olympus not even get to used in time. Forgetnik doing his best bait impression that time around.
Again, looking at this game as we're starting to see, okay, now Beacon is available. Nogitsune stepping up. I'm kind of surprised that they're stepping up into this. They do have a little more positioning. Here
comes the ultimates coming out. We see Hovering Death being used to try and get escape, trying to find a target in. Anher finds a kill onto 2. There's a double kill for Forgetnik, 4-0. But Baba finds the kill onto Casey Striker. The Pele falls as the first member, as Anher just sitting in this beacon, trying to find a way in. Amaterasu throwing that front line to try and stop this Baba Yaga from coming in. Raijin keeping that mid lane at bay as well, stopping Hera. But Hera doesn't have arc. Hera doesn't have a way in the rest of the fight. Your Mojo going to come around. And that is a really clean return fight from Lil Noms. Sure, they lose Casey Striker in the fight, but taking 2 people and taking the thing. What was that in the back? We just see B-More come in and take out Ionicus. The Baba Yaga falls. B-More getting a clean solo kill by running at them in the enemy camps.
Yeah, again, we're seeing sort of a combination of game 1 and game 2 here, where like game 1 had this slow inevitability to it. Game 2, there were 2 or 3 key moments as
hold that thought right now. Great beats coming out from Raijin, trying to stay alive, Hovering Death and the dash taunt. Look at him waving around, but stands into the arms of Hera. But in return, Casey Striker's here, takes out the Thanatos. That is a Red Pepper down. Argus pops. He's going to force away the rest of the team. Casey Striker going to have to disengage. And we have Cormigogo Nuts kind of helping around, trying to get some help for the rest of the team. But Hera, once again, utilizing Argus to the best of their ability and getting a lot of damage off. Polymorph comes out, takes out that Bastion. And Pele going back to the farm, trying to stay afloat. Has a 2-level lead on the Thanatos right now. It's a fight of all time. We see a lot of level advantages going forward. Anher, Pele, and Yamoja all have significant level advantages over Nogitsune. The only difference is Baba Yaga getting level 14 over the level 13 Amma on Beemo. But Beemo 1-0-2, finding that solo kill onto the Baba is definitely not put him behind at all. So don't count the little Noms out just yet. This could be their game to lose, and I think that's going to be what the big question mark is if they keep playing the team fights the way they are, which is baiting characters, baiting the ultimates, and then going all in. I mean, we saw how impactful that River's Rebuke was, forcing ultimates almost immediately. As Forgetnik tries to pick a fight with the Ishtar, but misses the Impale, and is going to have to go back with a lion with his tail underneath the tower line, as the two jungles start to make their rotation over. Here comes Thanatos looking in, Mez comes out, Thanatos being forced into Hovering Death almost immediately. Hovering Death being used, he lands, doesn't find a target. Here comes Tycho Drum trying to find a way in. The Great Disperse pushes him into the wall. Red Pepper falls to the rest of the Raijin damage. And now Pele looking for more onto the tower line, but with no mana can't commit onto Sweaty Sacks, but forces the horn shot or the speed shot, the wing shot. There we go, yeah, eventually.
There it is.
We'll get there eventually, but again, just a great initiation from Lil Noms, forcing abilities out from Crumbion and Red Pepper, and takes a kill onto the Thanatos, putting him even further behind. Great team play from the Noms here.
Yeah, and again, we're kind of seeing, you know, game 1 had that slow inevitability to it. Game 2, 3 had those key moments that you were looking at where you just saw, okay, there was a team fight, there was a team fight, there was a team fight, and it goes in kind of that way. Game 3 here is sort of this amalgamation of two, where you're seeing the weight of Little Noms just building and building and building, but they're playing the team fights correctly. They're playing the objectives correctly. And they're really showing potential here as to how they can get better and how they can grow in this game. As to, you know, and we saw it a little bit as to, you know, game 2, they kind of got out of their comfort zone, is now, you know, we're seeing the Raijin on Venom as opposed to Beemore, and it's very, very effective as a mid laner here.
Yeah, I was just about to say the exact same thing. This Raijin in mid is doing wonders for the Lil Noms team. Having Beemore on a more standard solo laner, like even in the current meta of mage solos, this Amaterasu is doing more for the team, and then Raijin mid is also doing a lot more as well. We see him, you know, second top of the damage charts compared to the previous times on, you know, the Morrigan, where he wasn't really doing as much as you hoped him to. And it's really reinforcing the concept of how this Lil Noms draft goes, which is the standard team fight composition, which is all you really want from a comp, especially with how the pick comps aren't working for either team. So if you just go, you know what, we'll stick to our roots, go for what we can do, and obliterate the Nogitsune like we did game 1, it's going to be the Lil Noms' favor. But what do you think the Nogitsune need to do to start winning these team fights going forward?
So, honestly, it's get back to what you were doing in game 2, because game 3, or game 1, you were trying to play this chaos, and it didn't quite work out. Game 3, we've seen a little bit of that. That's where they've gotten their 3 kills. 1 was a pick, 2 where it literally has just been chaos, and they were able to get some odd man picks here and there. But for Nogitsune to actually get back into this game, I mean, they're down about 5k gold right now. We do see the Rebuke come back out.
As well. Hera's up in the target block. Casey Striker picks up a clean kill onto the Hera, and that is a Thanatos that also falls to Venom. But Venom also playing very, very low in the backline at 1 HP. Beemore finding that way in, gets the kill onto Sweaty Sacks. It's just the tanks at the knife. Baba next up to fall. Baba Yaga dead, and this is going to be the 5th, and that's a deicide for the Lil Noms. Clean, responsive, taking out the fight as they need to, blitting everything as the team fight goes on, and takes out a very clean fight. Going to take down Fire Giant as that key prize.
Yeah, this is going to be a 2 Fire Giant, but it's going to be enough to rub off on them that they should get at least both tier 1s, maybe a tier 2 out of this. You asked me before, what does Nogitsune need to do to get back into this game?
Not that.
Not that, first of all. Second of all, I'm seeing 2 primary issues that Nogitsune are having. One is the engage. They're getting engaged upon, they're not doing the engaging. And because of that, they tend to be on the back foot. The other side of it is because they're not engaging, the Baba Yaga and the Hera have to play their ults and their abilities more on the defensive side of things rather than the offensive side of things. So they're not able to free cast from the back, basically, is the terminology we use. It almost seems like the Ishtar is just desperately trying to stay alive at this point rather than trying to be an effective team fighter. They've really got to start. There needs to be a fundamental change of how they're playing this game. They're a little bit broken up, and they need to, like, here we go again.
Speaking of
The Athena goes into 2, and now, yeah.
Really utilize that team. We see Ishtar dash away. Striker goes in, follows with Volcanic Lightning, gets that kill, but in return, Pepper takes away that KT Striker. Rivers Rebuke pops, but leaves an opening, but this means that Venom gets a free line of damage, takes out a second member. Call Me Gilgonot's picking up a third on what's happening over there. With 4 members there, you have Baba and Thanatos waiting around just in case, and then they want to save this tier 2 as 4 members of their Noms making their rotation over. Beemore coming in, finds the dash onto Red Pepper, forces the disengage, and gets Baba to fall away. That's a tier 2 tower pretty easily, but KC Striker losing that Fire Giant buff is notable. Shutting down this Pele, which has been a key problem for the Hera. We talked about it previously, how Hera was such a threat in game 2, but this time they've managed to secure that Pele, and the Pele just engaged the entire threat of what Argus poses. And it's really important for this Lil Noms draft, because if you have a giant enemy in front of you, you can just proc those cone autos pretty quickly, and it's really forcing Sabanova to think about their positioning in these team fights, and shutting down Argus early means the rest of the team comes in. Pele going to be close to level 20 right now, as is the Beemore and this Amaterasu. 2 level 19s, a level 18, and 2 level 17s. I mean, a 4 level lead in your support just shows what this Lil Noms team is capable of.
Well, and the big thing that's telling in that 4 level distancing is the Athena, who has literally been everywhere on the map trying to keep her team alive, has died 5 times and has only 3 assists. On the other side of the map, you have this Yamoja, who's already at level 17, is 2-0 and 11, and has been very effective, not as a support trying to keep her team alive, but proactively dropping the River's Rebuke to split team fights to make sure that what is happening is that the team fight effectiveness is going up in favor of the Little Noms, as opposed to just trying to keep the backliners alive, or to trying to separate or something like that. The Little Noms, especially Go Nuts, is playing this exceptionally well from the support.
Yes, and it looks like we have hit a pause really quick, so we will take a short break as the teams kind of get resituated. With this pause, we'll be back very shortly. this and her just a really dominant pick. But one thing I wanted to pull up on is this erosion on the Emojo. We talked about how good the support is in terms of the 4 rotations and doing what Athena needs to do, but almost better. And this erosion is a great way to shut down what Hera and Baba Yaga posed a threat of. Along with the Pele pick, we mentioned it before the break. Pele just kind of wins against a Hera. That's how that works. But the erosion shuts down even more of what Hera and Baba Yaga can do, and really puts this Nogitsune draft to work. So going into how this fight goes, with Nogitsune having a 11k deficit in gold, what do you think they need to look at? Hold that thought. I was going to ask you a question, but here we see the fight breaking out. River pops in to get some free damage. Hera living at 1. Baba Yaga using Home Sweet Home to try and get some damage off the team. Raijin looking for that aggression, finds that kill. Ishtar pops Blades of Vengeance and does find a return onto Venom. The Raijin playing too aggressively this time around. It is a 4v4, both mid laners down. Baba Yaga looking for a way in. Riptide forces the Noms to disengage. They don't even want to take that fight without forgetting it's there. In the ADC, they can't force take that fight in the 3v4 right now, but they want to keep fighting. Beamore going to dash away as well, and I think they want to keep fighting. Nogitsune, they still want to find a way in, trying to go for some of the farm that they can, but we see in the mid lane, Anher isn't going to make the rotation over, just going to try and push. We might see a cheeky push down the mid, but no, he's going to disengage and start going back. Knows he could be ganked at any time. We see the Thanatos making that rotate over. And that is a good fight for the Nogitsune to take a kill on it to Venom, and that is, without a Raijin there, they don't do as much damage to any of the objectives, so they can't force a fight in. And taking Sabnova out again as well, always going to be worth it.
Yeah, as you were saying before, between the items, the erosion, the Pele in here, and how it's affecting the gameplay and what Nogitsune wants to do, the little Noms are actually effectively manipulating things around the map. Now, a little bit of an issue there with Venom out of position, trying to flank. That's not supposed to be his job. As we do see Fire Giant started up here, and again, what happened with the Gold Fury is that they were able to come up and just steal it away because there was a physical barrier, but there was no, there was no zoning. That's not going to happen.
We see a lot of fight coming out. Pele is looking for a way in. Pops the ult just in time. Takes a lot of damage, and in return, the polymorph hits true. Takes out KC Striker. One person that fire immediately as the fire comes in. Defender of Olympus keeps the Hera alive. Torn comes out, and I think Beamore is going to be the next Majority, but Tiger Drums are finding targets here and there. The damage output from Venom takes one out, and is going to find Beamore, going to take another kill. Beamore gets a double kill, looking for a third, finds the dribble, doesn't get it in time. Anher takes that kill instead, and that's another deicide on the Fire Giant, all at the cost of one KC Striker. KC is going to be the person that is just letting the rest of the team thrive, and that's really what you want from your jungle. Jungles typically just don't care if they die or their stat lines. They say, look, if my team gets a deicide, I don't care, because this could be the end game for what Nogitsune have. Taken away that Phoenix, they've got the Fire Giant, and they're going to try and take this right Phoenix as well, with the Titan pushing down as well. There is so much that they can take off this 1-1 team fight, as we have Sweaty Sacks come back in, does not have Blades of Vengeance available to them just yet, so can't take this fight as the rest of the team comes in. They are going to take that Phoenix and then disengage. That's 2 Phoenixes down, Fire Giant, and a deicide off, and that is a clear win for the Noms. And now the ball is in the Noms' court. Nogitsune having hard time to get back into the rest of this game. Tier 1 towers still up and running. It's going to be difficult for them to have a deciding victory. They might get a return deicide after one of the pushes if Lil Noms don't play correctly. But the likelihood of this happening with how these fights are going, it's hard to watch and hard to think about what Nogitsune need to really think about going into these fights. Just misusage of relics, a little bit of unsafety into how they play, to the point where Lil Noms can make mistakes and not get punished for it.
Well, and I think that goes to, yes, they're behind, but as the levels start to catch up here, we need to see that aggression come back from Nogitsune. The fight that they had where they picked off the Raijin on the right-hand side there in the solo lane, and then they pushed up that lane. That was the lane that the Titans were coming down. What they could have done, when instead of disengaging and going into the jungle, they could have pushed that advantage, pushed another wave or two forward, and now instead of trying to fight around the mid to, the backside of your own lane, now instead you've got to force the Noms to make a decision, because you had mid lane pushing forward, you had you had left lane pushing forward, and you had right lane where you just won. You have your Titan coming up, you can get some early damage out, which means you can win that Titan fight and still allow the pressure to push. Now, because they disengaged, there was no pressure there.
And hold on. As the Titan fights come out, we see them run pretty quick. Thanos comes over, but falls to the Tycho drums. Doesn't get that time off, but look at these HP bars. Baba Yaga 1 HP in the backline, trying to find their way in. Lil Noms are also pretty low on the HP bar, trying to find a way in. Dash Taunt comes out onto Raijin. Terra tried to find that polymorph, but here's KC Striker playing around with fire and lava. It is a Pele. The fight is not over just yet. 4 members still have Fire Giant. Striker doesn't have it, but they are going to disengage. That Phoenix is still alive. They sacrifice Red Pepper, but they keep that last Phoenix alive and healthy. They've been using everything on both sides, and with nothing up for the Lil Nom to take, they're gonna have to walk back and just go, look, we lost that siege. They defended it better than what we could, and that is a good start for the Nogitsune to start coming back. Being able to defend a Phoenix like that at such a deficit, really good play.
Yep, and again, XP difference isn't going to matter much. Cumbrion is going to try and, get up to level 20 as fast as he can. Everybody else is already at 20, so the gold difference now is really what we need to start taking a look at, because that is going to start making itself known. Because as full build comes out, now we're going to start seeing pots being used. We're going to start seeing 3K pots. We're going to start seeing that as we're ticking over into the 30th minute now, getting close to the 30th minute, the next Fire Giant is about to be EFG. So we're gonna see, I think, especially this next FG fight, it's really gonna tell what's gonna happen as we start to see the teams posture around as Fire Giant spawns.
And after this team's back to get all their last items online, we do see a bit of a question mark from the side of the Lil Nom. That is an absolution coming out from Emoja. As the Fire Giant does get pulled, 5 seconds until it is enhanced, the teams are looking for a way in. Rivers of Buke popped, trying to split away at the damage farm. Lil Noms do take the Fire Giant, but the fight breaks out. Pele gonna find that target onto Sweaty Sacks. Takes a double kill onto Sapnova, the 2 damage dealers down. Red Pepper, the last one alive. That is the support falling. Athena comes out, there's a triple kill. It's a quadra kill as they find the solo. It is just on the Thanatos. This could be the Penta.
Just give them the...
No! Venom HQ takes the pentakill away from KC Striker, and that is going to be game for the Lil Noms. What a way to win the match as well. KC Striker could have DC'd and just gone bruh, but a clean Deicide, a clean team fight from the Lil Noms. They take game 3 and are the winners of the set in a 2-1 victory.
Venom needs to write an open letter of apology to KC Striker. I truly believe that right now. There needs to be in match chat or in gen chat, there needs to be a full page letter of some sort apologizing for that kill steal, taking away the penta in a game. Oh, that is heartbreaking.
That is so heartbreaking.
It was kind of, we kind of knew the way the fight was going to go, but when you start to see that triple kill, that quadra, oh, that one hurts. That one hurts a lot. Shifting over now into our details and scoreboard here. It's kind of that tale of the tape of, okay, what do we kind of saw that back and forth happening during the game, that slow inevitability, that build up, but the numbers bear that out extremely well here too. 32k out of KC Striker. That is almost double compared to what we're seeing to everybody else.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not just the damage numbers themselves, it's also just the kill participation, you know. When you're a
Yeah.
part of 24 kills for your team, 11 kills, 13 assists, you know, almost the top assists as well, compared to Beam, or, you know, never mind, Komi Gogonots at 23 assists. Ignore
Yeah.
me. But the entire team of Noms just worked cohesively as a unit, you know. We see 3 people still go deathless. Komi Gogonots, Beam or Chaos, and Forget Nick all played well enough during their lives to just not die at all during the entire match. And it's not because of how the Nogitsune played, because they were playing well. They were able to secure a lot of the kills they needed to, but it was mainly just sacrificial plays by KC Striker to go in, dump the damage, and then die for it. And it just meant that Red Pepper could not find a way into the targets he needed to find. And that was the downfall of them during that entire match. If they were able to shut down someone like Forget Nick at the start of the fight, or even pressure out Venom a little bit harder before he throws out his damage, that game could have been a lot different. But after fight, where the little Noms just kept taking more and more, you know, Nogitsune gave them an inch and they took a mile. And they end up winning that match just really steamrolling with that gold lead. You know, we saw like almost a 15k, 16k gold lead as that game ended. Just from clean fights all around.
And to be completely honest, we love seeing the damage numbers. We love seeing KC Striker get the 4K, you know, almost get the penta. But, you know, okay, you know, 24 kill participation. Go Nuts had 25, and I want to say supports are kind of the unsung heroes of many of these leagues. And that Yamoja, time and time and time again, was timely on her ults, was able to get out of danger when she needed to, and was able to help her team effectively when she needed to. She was the disruptor when she needed to be, when it allowed B-More to get into the back line, it allowed Venom to free cast, it allowed Forget Nick to pop his ultimate, and KC Striker just came in from the side and cleaned up what he had to. Honestly, if I had to give an MVP in this set, it's gotta be Go Nuts for what he did in Game 1 and in Game 3. As much as KC Striker took the game over in Game 3, I don't think he gets there without the setup from Go Nuts.
However, that Game 2 is going to be a mark on his behalf. That was
Oh yeah.
not a show of good faith for Gogonuts. So I wouldn't give Gogonuts my MVP. I would definitely give it to Forget Nick. Forget Nick has played a phenomenal 3 games all the way through, just kind of struggled a little bit more in the Hachi, just from the pressure that they had, but he still played the role that he needed to well, was still topping damage charts. And I think Forget Nick really played out of his mind, but realistically, the entire team of Noms just played well. There was no weak links whatsoever. Yep. So that is a well-deserved win. But that is all from us on Cast. We will have some more games streamed soon. I'm not entirely sure on the schedule, but please remember to check us out when we go live if you like more of this Smite content. My name has been Sparked Out, been joined by Red Sniper on the cast and Brokazoid on the spectator side. So thank you all for watching. Have a good night.